It's week 3 of this Prismatic Draft League Pokemon Champions season. The first 2 weeks of the season have flown by. Honestly, it has taken some work for me to keep up with everything going on around the league, but we are now 2 weeks in. Every team is starting to find their footing. There are, as we'll see in the standings, some teams still chasing their first win of the season, but we're starting to get a good look already at how each of these drafts play, what their game plans are. And coaches have had some opportunities already to make adjustments to their rosters and try to get everything exactly as they want it, but there's still room for a little more of that to come. That said, I think most people are either happy with where they are right now or still figuring things out, because there is only one trade to report in week 3. Once again, I'm doing trades before standings because I think that gives me kind of a more natural flow to this. And that one trade is the Minty Meloetta dropping Hawlucha and picking up Mr. Rime. So the Meloetta's game plans are usually kind of opaque to me, if we're being honest. I mean, they said openly that their game plan is to counter everyone else's game plan. I don't know necessarily how Hawlucha ever fit into that, but I mean, I guess it's a fast Unburden Tailwind Pokemon, can get coaching and stuff. But Mr. Rime is a Pokemon with a lot of tricks up its sleeve, so if your plan is to counter other people's plans, Mr. Rime's unique support kit definitely is of some help with that. Notably, it gets Screen Cleaner for an ability, so it can remove an opponent's screens immediately. It gets a bunch of weird support moves. It can throw off a Sheer Cold. Do they have No Guard anywhere on this team? They don't. So roleplay, Sheer Cold stuff is probably not happening. But yeah, I don't know. Mr. Mime is a tricky Pokemon. I'm not going to overthink this right now, but there's a lot that it can do, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it does for this team. I will also note that they save some points with this move. I don't remember the exact numbers, but Hawlucha was worth a few more points than Mr. Rime, so they add those points back to their budget. They have a little bit more room to make some other moves later if they want. Sadly, I do kind of wonder whether Furfrou is going to be sticking around much longer, because there is a bit more flexibility to bring in something else that maybe can be a bit more useful, although I'm still looking forward to seeing what Furfrou can do if we get the chance. The standings in Pool A look like this. 2 teams remain undefeated, the Ontario Oguris and the Poblano Ho-Ho Peppers, both coming off of impressive wins last week. Then there's a whole big clump of teams in the middle, because we're only 2 weeks in and there are only 3 possible records you can have. I will note once again that this is not the official standings table. I make this myself. It might not capture all of the nuances of all of the tiebreakers, and we have a bunch of ties broken by alphabetical order here, which is not a real tiebreaker that the league uses. But the Oguris and the Peppers on top right now, but quite a few teams chasing them, and Pendragon United and the Minty Meloetta still looking for their first wins. And things look pretty similar over in Pool B. Hey, who's that at the top of the standings in Pool B? Well, by alphabetical order anyway, tied with the Revolting Raichus are our Halifax Masquerainmen, one of 2 remaining undefeated teams. In our pool, there's the same kind of clump of teams at 1-1. A lot of movement early in the season, because differential can rapidly drop a team up or down, but maybe things will stabilize some more over time. And we have the Fluffy Friends and the Great Barrier Garchomps still chasing their first wins. Neither one of them is this week's opponent, though. Of course, we played the Garchomps last week. This week's opponent is right smack in the middle of the table. 1-1, 0 differential. The Azure Bay Chatots looking to climb back up. Actually, thanks once again to favorable alphabetical order, I think they were the top team in last week's standings table. And yeah, they're looking to make a statement after a tough loss last week and climb back toward the top. So let's see if we can prevent that. The matchup looks like this. The Chatots have Mega Aerodactyl, Farigiraf, Ditto, Mousehold, Mega Chestnut, Skeledirge, Manectric, Politoed, Fortress, and Mega Swampert. So 3 things stand out to me immediately here. 1, they have 2 Megas. Sorry, that's not even interesting. I have 2 Megas. They have 3 Megas. I said the wrong number. They have 3 Megas. That's pretty cool. But it does also limit some other options a little bit. 2, they have a powerful Rain mode with Politoed and Mega Swampert. I guess I'll broaden this point and say that they have a whole bunch of different speed control options, because they do have the Swift Swim Swampert option. They can set Tailwind with Mega Aerodactyl, which is, I believe, the fastest Pokemon in the game right now. And they also have one of the best Trick Room setters in Farigiraf, able to create openings for Mega Chestnut and Skeledirge, and like even Swampert if it doesn't Mega Evolve or there's no rain, to underspeed Pokemon and sweep opposing teams. Third thing I'll say, this coach has mentioned a few times putting kind of a premium in the draft on Pokemon that do something nothing else can, making sure that they lock those down for their team, and we see that on full display here. They have one of two passive priority blockers available in the league this season. I have the other one, Serena. They have Ditto, which obviously is an extremely unique Pokemon. There's nothing else like it. They have, as I mentioned, one of the best Tailwind supports in the game in Mega Aerodactyl, which will outspeed everything always as long as there's no priority involved. They have Skeledirge, which is a very unique setup special attacker with Unaware to ignore opponent's boosts and Torch Song boosting its special attack while also doing damage. There are a lot of unusual Pokemon here, and that means they have a lot of tricks up their sleeve that can be kind of hard to deal with. We've even seen Fortress set up with Curse and attack things with Body Press in Week 1. So, once again, and it's a credit to everyone in the league that I keep saying this week after week, this is not the easiest thing to prepare against. And it doesn't help that I haven't had a whole lot of time this week. I built my team fairly quickly, although, as I do sometimes, I spent a lot of time just thinking about my team here and there, like throughout my day, over multiple days. And so the actual work in the builder was very quick, but I had a pretty clear skeleton in my head for what the team was going to look like by the time I sat down and did that building work. And this is what I'm going with this week. It's a little bit, I don't know why there's a, I think I cropped the screenshot badly, but it's a little bit different from what we've seen before. I'm bringing Perish Song for the first time. That does not mean that I'm hard committing to the Perish Trap game plan. I mean, with Gengar, Grimmsnarl, and Vivillon, I do think that Perish Trap can be pretty good. That's part of why I have those Pokemon on my team. But obviously, the opponent's Farigiraf blocking Fake Out can make Perish Trap harder to pull off, and also Mega Aerodactyl outspeeding Gengar, the first thing we've seen on any opponent's team this season that could keep up with Gengar. I believe they speed tie before Aerodactyl Mega evolves, and then Aerodactyl's faster after. Those create some situations where Perish Trap will not necessarily work very well. So hard Perish Trap was definitely not the choice here, but some kind of soft Perish Trap option I figured was something I wanted to try against a team with a bunch of bulky Pokemon that can be hard to remove, and also against Pokemon like Mega Chestnut and Fortress that can be threatening to some of other parts of my roster, but have a hard time dealing with Gengar just getting rid of them in that way. I will note that this Gengar has no damage into Bulletproof Chestnut without Perish Song, but I don't think Chestnut can do a whole lot back during the Perish turns. So I figured that's of some value to have. The other thing here is I actually think Perish Song, even though I led with it, I actually think it's more of a secondary plan for this team. I think the main thing for this team is... Wow, I really cropped this badly. You can't see the fourth moves on Gyarados and Conkeldurr. They're Protect. I think it's Detect on Conkeldurr, but same thing. But yeah, Dragon Dance Mega Gyarados I think is the actual main plan here, because my opponent doesn't have a whole lot of answers to it. Gyarados is immune to Swampert's Earthquake, resists its Wave Crash, and can intimidate it, weakening it with that. Gyarados is an offensive threat into Skeledirge. Pokemon like Mousehold and Farigiraf don't stand up to Mega Gyarados super well, although I'm not running Crunch, as you can see. It was kind of a tough choice for that third move slot. We'll talk about that, but yeah, those Pokemon are pretty afraid of Mega Gyarados. A lot of things on my opponent's team are pretty afraid of Mega Gyarados, with the notable exception of Mega Chestnut. So I think, at least in Game 1, most likely I try to aggressively set up the Gyarados. And if I can take a couple of KOs with Gyarados, then I can win the game with Gengar in the back. Actually, that does raise a bit of an issue on which Pokemon I'm Mega Evolving, which I haven't properly thought through yet. But where the main threat to Mega Gyarados is Mega Chestnut, and to a lesser extent Fortress, I think Gengar matching up well into those Pokemon is of some decent help to me here. I actually kind of wonder, hang on. Sorry, we're gonna take a quick look live here because, like I said, I built the team hastily. I wonder whether I have room for like Psychic on Gengar, so I have something to hit Mega Chestnut, but I don't think I do. I think both stabs are needed to properly cover the rest of the opponent's team. Because like if I run Shadow Ball and Psychic, I have nothing for Farigiraf. If I run Sludge Bomb and Psychic, I have nothing for Fortress. I think we're gonna go with this, and it's fine. And yeah, if I can get a couple KOs with Gyarados, then Chestnut is pretty vulnerable to Perish Song, because what's it going to do before the Perish turns are up? Both of those can be enabled by Grimmsnarl and Vivillon. You can see here that I'm running no attacks Grimmsnarl. If you've watched the draft videos for a while, you know that I hate running a Pokemon without any attacks, but I didn't feel like any of Grimmsnarl's moves were expendable here. If anything, I could probably have dropped the screens and figured something else out, but I think the screens are pretty valuable to get Gyarados going, and I need Fake Out if I'm running a Perish Trap mode with Gengar, and realistically I need Parting Shot for that as well, I think. So it's a very basic screens Grimmsnarl, very physically bulky because a lot of my opponent's main offensive threats are physical. And yeah, with screens and Parting Shot and Fake Out, with all of its moves, it can keep Gengar around for a Perish Trap game plan, and it can also create openings for Gyarados to set up with Dragon Dance. And maybe that gives me some openings to take KOs with Gyarados without Mega Evolving it, so I preserve the option to Mega Evolve Gengar. That's probably what the best version of this looks like in some situations. Vivillon, meanwhile, obviously it has the Sleep Powder and Rage Powder to support its teammates. I am running Compound Eyes instead of Friend Guard because, like in Week 1, I want to run Hurricane, because I think the main threat to Mega Gyarados is Mega Chestnut, and I don't want to rely fully on Perish Song to deal with that. So Hurricane was the clear attack to run on Vivillon here. The nice thing is Vivillon has a neat little speed tier that it slots into in this matchup, where I don't think I have to run Timid, which is what I normally would on this Pokemon, so it's modest Vivillon. It's going to hit a little extra hard with that Compound Eyes accuracy boosted Hurricane. Otherwise, its role is pretty simple here. Then we have Conkeldurr and Gudra. So one Pokemon that I'm a little bit concerned about with the four that I've already talked about is Mega Aerodactyl. Mega Aerodactyl matches up well into the Perish Trap stuff because it outspeeds Gengar and threatens it offensively. Gyarados is stronger into Mega Aerodactyl because it can intimidate it. I could lead like Gyarados Grimmsnarl and then Fake Out Dragon Dance, or Fake Out Mega Evolve Reflect, or not Fake Out, Mega Evolve Reflect Dragon Dance or something. And Aerodactyl's kind of in a tough spot, but I want to make sure I have more answers to it than that, because I do think it's the main thing once I cover for Mega Chestnut that can kind of blow up what the rest of my team wants to do. Gudra was not in the first draft of this team. I was trying to do something with Armarouge. I think this is the second week in a row that I almost brought Armarouge, but didn't quite. But Gudra not only is a pretty clear answer to most of what Mega Aerodactyl normally wants to do. Mega Aerodactyl doesn't like facing steel types. Gudra is a pretty strong steel type. But Gudra also, I realized, shuts down a lot of what my opponent's team can do offensively. Like Pokemon like Manectric, Mousehold, Farigiraf, those can be threatening to other Pokemon on my team, but they're really not generally very threatening to Gudra. Skeledirge has some trouble because, yes, Torch Song is neutral, but Gudra is very specially bulky naturally. So, again, it has weaknesses that my opponent can exploit, right? Pokemon like Mega Chestnut and Mega Swampert can hit it for super effective damage, although I'm running the Shuka Berry to cover for that Swampert Earthquake. But a lot of my opponent's team really struggles to break Hisui and Gudra, so I feel like Gudra can just kind of be slapped onto this team without a lot of dedicated support for it. And just throw off attacks. My opponent also does not have very much to take a Dragon-type attack. I think Fortress is their only Dragon resist. So I just slapped on Draco Meteor and Dragon Pulse, and then Flamethrower covers Fortress. And Gudra can get a lot of strong positions against my opponent's team, although, again, the main incentive for me to bring it was to have something that makes Mega Aerodactyl very, very sad. Conkeldurr might be a slightly more awkward fit, but once again, I like the priority for Mach Punch in this matchup. Notably, Thunder Punch into Mach Punch should knock out Mega Aerodactyl if I get some kind of weird position there, and that's why I'm running the Koba Berry to cover for Flying-type damage into Conkeldurr. I'm running Thunder Punch instead of Ice Punch because... What was the reason I did that? I'm going to have to look at my opponent's roster again. There was something I didn't like about Ice Punch. Wait, I actually don't remember. Oh, Thunder Punch is neutral into Skeledirge. And otherwise Skeledirge resists or is immune to everything that Conkeldurr has. But same damage as Ice Punch into Mega Aerodactyl. And then maybe I can get it with a Mach Punch if the position is right. I don't know, Conkeldurr's maybe a slightly awkward fit here, but I think it gives me a little bit more cover into the main threats that some members of my team kind of struggle with. And that's the name of the game. The main players here are Gyarados, Grimmsnarl, Vivillon, Gengar. Gudra and Conkeldurr are here to be helpful into positions that are tough for those Pokemon. There's going to be a lot to decide at Team Preview because, as usual, there are a lot of different things that my opponent can throw at me, and I'll have to deal with whatever specific options I'm actually facing. It's not likely that they bring all 3 Megas when we see what the matchup actually looks like. Any other nuances here I haven't talked about yet? Gengar's running max speed, so it at least ties Aerodactyl if that thing doesn't Mega Evolve, because Aerodactyl is a reasonable Pokemon for my opponent to bring and not Mega. Gyarados, I think, outspeeds Adamant Mega Aerodactyl after a Dragon Dance. Can that be right? I think that's right. Goodra is speed creeping something. Goodra's faster than Skeledirge, I think. It only takes a few points of speed investment to do that. And I think there was another thing, but I don't remember it right now. Otherwise, these Pokemon are mostly hitting pretty hard, and I have the supports in place to hopefully win an endgame with Perish Song or something like that. That's the basic idea. Oh, the last thing I wanted to say is, obviously I need some kind of answers to Ditto. But the nice thing, if Ditto turns into Mega Gengar or Mega Gyarados, it can be very, very threatening into my team. But the nice thing here is, with my support Pokemon, I can hopefully, redirect something from Ditto. Or Parting Shoot Ditto, at least. Ditto turned into Gengar is pretty scary, actually. Anyway, all of this is why I'm running, the main reason I'm running Power Whip on Gyarados instead of Crunch. Crunch would be okay here. It doesn't, it's a good secondary stab, hits very hard, but it's not really necessary to cover for anything in particular in this matchup. But with Power Whip, in theory, I can fake out Ditto or Rage Powder after Ditto has transformed. Get a Dragon Dance that Ditto doesn't have, so my Gyarados has the speed advantage, or at least just tying if Ditto is Scarfed, and then Power Whip their Ditto that's turned into my Gyarados. That's the idea. I also figured it was better than running something to try to hit Mega Chestnut, because Gyarados doesn't have a whole lot of options for it. Anyway, that finally is the team. We're going to go ahead and see how it worked out now. And we're playing on Pokemon Champions. I forgot to mention that earlier, but also I was not 100% locked in yet at that time. I can't hear the game audio because my headphones are broken. I should probably do something about that, but it looks to me in OBS like it's probably working okay, so let's go. We have... Actually, I'm going to go close my curtains a little bit more because the sun is getting in my eyes. It's that part of the day. At least moved a curtain vaguely in the way so the sun's not in my eyes now. Okay, Chestnut, Swampert, Ditto, Farigiraf, Mousehold, and Aerodactyl. So there's no Politoed, but they could still set up the rain with like Rain Dance Mousehold or something. Aerodactyl is here, Chestnut is here. Would be convenient to only see one of those because I built in pretty specific countermeasures to them. Because there were kind of problems from my basic idea, but I think my basic idea still looks okay. I have to remember that Gyarados can't really beat Chestnut with the set that I have. But I'm going to try just the original basic game plan in Game 1 and see what happens. And then I can think about bringing... Honestly, Conkeldurr doesn't do that much here, but I can think about bringing Goodra if I want. After Game 1. So, what's it gonna be? I've led Gyarados and Grimmsnarl, so that I can build pressure on these immediately. I can intimidate Aerodactyl, and I can also set up a Reflect. I can fake out if I want, but Farigiraf is here. Maybe it's best to not assume that I can pull that off. I also have to think about whether to Mega Evolve Gyarados. But I do think I'm okay with doing that. It takes away the trap part of Perish Trap, but again, I think the goal is to get KOs with Gyarados anyway. And if I can remove the Aerodactyl, then Gengar can outspeed their whole team. Only if I remove the Aerodactyl. If Aerodactyl doesn't Mega Evolve, then it might speed by Gengar. If it does Mega Evolve, it's faster. But, I mean, the point is there's still ways to play this for sure without Mega Evolving Gengar. Follow me. We'll do nothing here because I didn't target my opponent's side of the field. Go straight for Reflect here. And... Tailwind from Aerodactyl. Okay. Alright, that makes the speed boost on Gyarados not super useful coming from this Dragon Dance, but I think I'm ready to just start attacking. I'll go for Light Screen because I don't especially want to go for Parting Shot right now. And it doesn't hurt to get Light Screen up in case I need it later. I do think that maybe I'm going to not click Fake Out anyway because they have the Farigiraf. And Farigiraf is a Pokemon they're likely to bring every week, so it's not like I didn't expect it. Then maybe I could have found room for an attack on Grimmsnarl instead of Fake Out, but I don't know. If I went for more of a Perish Trap-oriented plan, then I would definitely want Fake Out. Mousehold shows Super Fang, which is a bit of an issue in this Tailwind. We get Rock Slide from Aerodactyl, it misses Gyarados. It's also a -1 attack and into Reflect. Doesn't do a whole lot to my physically bulky Grimmsnarl either. The Waterfall went into Aerodactyl here. It might actually have been better. Oh. It might actually have been better to target Mousehold. And you know what's... You want to know something really silly? Actually, Mousehold is probably where the Focus Sash is. You want to know something really silly? Even though I knew that Aerodactyl was required to hold its Mega Stone, I still was kind of covering for a Focus Sash in my head. I'm going to protect Gyarados here, and I think I'm just going to Parting Shot Chestnut. They can redirect that to Mousehold if they want, and bring Vivian in. And then I can threaten Chestnut with Hurricane. Because Chestnut is the one thing they have that kind of hard counters this Gyarados. Also, the Tailwind's still up, and I'd like to not be in Tailwind anymore soon, without losing Gyarados in the process, ideally. The Mega Evolving Chestnut this game makes sense since we already took out the Aerodactyl. Swampert is probably not in the back, although it could be. I do get my Parting Shot into Chestnut, and I do think I'll just bring Vivian in right now. Vivian is the Focus Sash to cover for an attack, but maybe they do something tricky here. I caught this Vivian X version. I wanted my local Vivian pattern, so I caught this. I got out my 2DS for the first time in probably a few years. Caught this Vivian X, evolved it, and transferred it up. Okay, they still have a turn Tailwind, right? I really need to turn on the setting that shows that at the top of the screen. I don't actually know how to do that, but I also have not tried to figure it out. Tailwind is still up, but Chestnut is so slow. Mega Chestnut is even slower than Base Chestnut. Fun fact. So they could redirect, right? They could have Focus Sash on the Mousehold and redirect both my attacks, but let's just try Hurricane into Chestnut and see what they have for that. Also might mute for a second because my throat's dry and I'm going to cough. Should be a bit better. We actually just don't get the KO on Mousehold with +1 Waterfall anyway, so it's probably a bulky Mousehold and not holding the Focus Sash. Unless it also has that cover for Conkeldurr, but we do take it out with the double up. But they get their Chestnut Body Press into Gyarados, but Gyarados took 2 KOs, which is basically what I was hoping for. And the Tailwind will end here. I'm going to bring Gengar in. I have 3 Pokemon left. Grimmsnarl won't even hear the Perish Song. It is time to go for Perish Song. Of course, the Hurricane into Chestnut is also still pretty safe. Oh, they're going to turn their Ditto into Gengar. Okay. That admittedly makes things... That's actually kind of a problem. Okay, it is kind of a problem, but I think I know what to do about it. Protect Gengar and Sleep Powder Ditto. Because if they outspeed my Gengar... Oh, I'm taunted, I forgot. Oh no. Okay, in that case, I think what I'm going to do is switch Gengar out to Grimmsnarl. And just Hurricane Chestnut. Vivian still has the Focus Sash, so even if they attack it with their Ditto, it'll be fine. They also can see now that I have Perish Song, so no surprise there. That was a good trick though, bringing the Ditto in the back, just as I thought Gengar was going to clean this one up. And by the way, if I could still Mega Evolve the Gengar, and therefore make it faster than their Ditto. Although if they have Choice Scarf, that still doesn't work. Never mind. They're also protected, so they get a pretty free Shadow Ball there, as they just protected their Grimmsnarl from the Hurricane. Their Chestnut. They protected their Chestnut from the Hurricane. Vivillon's in range of the next Shadow Ball. This is a tough position, honestly. I'm going to Parting Shot, Ditto, and protect Vivillon. But I might be sort of slowly positioning myself out of this one. I think what I want to do is get my Gengar in if I can. And then I'm threatening both Perish Song and Hurricane, or Sleep Powder. Perish Song and Sleep Powder at the same time. Or even Perish Song and, or even Shadow Ball and Sleep Powder into Ditto. Well, also, will be useful to see if Ditto switches moves. It does just go for Shadow Ball again, and it's again into Vivillon, so it hits the Protect. Chestnut Body Press will not hit a valid target. So is it Shadow Ball here, or is it Perish Song? I mean, the only question is, can Grimmsnarl survive the 3 turns? And I think physically bulky Grimmsnarl. They have Sludge Bomb on the Ditto though, but well, then that depends on whether they can use that. Depends on whether Ditto is choice locked. I'm gonna go for Perish Song, and also Sleep Powder into Ditto. Whether Ditto is choice locked might make a huge difference here. Spiky Shield again with the Chestnut. What moves next? It is Ditto, clicking Shadow Ball into Vivillon, so Ditto will not fall asleep. Actually, it might, because Vivillon took that Shadow Ball way better than I anticipated. What was that? Did the first one crit and I just didn't notice, or what? Oh, well, it was -1 Shadow Ball this time, but still, that seemed like a big difference in the damage. But I didn't properly account for it being -1. So now I get my Perish Song. I think... I mean, Ditto's asleep. It's pretty safe. I'll protect my Gengar, I guess. I don't have to protect my Gengar. It's pretty safe to Shadow Ball Ditto and Hurricane Chestnut here. There's not really much they can do about it except dodge the Hurricane. So I might not even need the Perish Wincon in the end. But I do think that's Choice Scarf Ditto from the way it's been playing, which is good to know. And that means in this game I should be safe, even if... Oh. Okay, good tech. Oh my god, Vivillon survives at 1. Well, even if this doesn't work out somehow, the strong implication that it's Scarf Ditto means that Grimmsnarl is fine to stall at the Perish counter. Vivillon survives at 1 HP, and I crit Ditto. I think this game was pretty well wrapped up anyway. I also land the Hurricane. It is Compound Eyes boosted, and take out the Mega Chestnut. So that game got a little bit messier than maybe I wanted, but it turned out just fine in the end. I do think that maybe I would have been better off saving the Mega for Gengar. I don't know that Mega Evolving Gyarados did all that much for me here. Because I have so much damage mitigation into Aerodactyl in the early game anyway. It was the Mouse Hold and then the Body Press Chestnut that did all the damage into... Well, at least all the significant damage into Gyarados. So I'm kind of tempted to just bring the same 4 Pokemon again and see what my opponent comes up with. But maybe save the Mega for Gengar this time. But let's see. What do they have that they didn't bring to that game? Swampert and Farigiraf. But neither one of those really helps them deal with Gyarados in the early game. They can put more emphasis on like clicking rock attacks with Aerodactyl, which is kind of what was in the back of my mind when I chose to go ahead and Mega Evolve my Gyarados last game, but I think I'm probably still fine. I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt to test what adjustment they have for this, right? But I am just going to bring the same mode again. Obviously, Goodra gives me a bit more power to Aerodactyl, but it is weak to Chestnut. It's also weak to Swampert. It outspeeds Mega Chestnut, so if they go for that Mega again, maybe Mega Aerodactyl could mess with me in this game. But I do think that what I brought is hard for them to deal with, and I'm not that sold on either of my Pokemon in the back making a big difference into what I know of my opponent's likely game plans so far. Yeah, like maybe Conkeldurr also could like take a hit and Thunder Punch Ditto if it's transformed into Gengar again, or if it's transformed into Gyarados. I don't know. Right now we're in game 2 and I brought the same 4 mons. We get Aerodactyl and Farigiraf this time, so that's a tricky lead, obviously. I don't know if I should bother with the Dragon Dance. Last game they just went for Tailwind right away. And so the speed boosts were not of much help to me. I'm just going to Waterfall immediately this time, I think. And I'm going for Reflect again with Grimmsnarl. But yeah, I've not Mega Evolved the Gyarados, so maybe the Power Boost will matter, because I've not Mega Evolved the Gyarados this time. Game 1 was a little neater for me if I saved the Mega for Gengar. But I don't know what my opponent has cooked up this time, so I don't know if it's going to work out the same kind of way. It could even be like Thunderbolt and Rigorath, which is not something I've thought about until right now. Stealth Rock. Oh, that's an interesting tech. That's a good answer to my Sash Vivillon. I never anticipated that, but it makes a lot of sense. Aerodactyl is just one-shot by the Waterfall, though. So that's a valuable damage bond into... Oh, wow! Gyarados that they don't have anymore. Stealth Rock and Yawn, and they force Vivillon in and break the Sash earlier than I'd like. And also it does 50%, because Vivillon has that double weakness to Rock. And Gyarados will take, what, 25% Stealth Rock damage when it comes back in? That's kind of nuts, honestly. And here's another thing. If Mousehold wants to mess with me somehow right now, I can't quick Party Shot into it. I can't Fake Out, but it's not turn 1, so I can't do that anyway. I'm going to Light Screen here. And also, my opponent being able to force switches means that it's a little harder for me to find the courage to make my own switches. I'm going to go for the Sleep Powder into Farigiraf to try to shut this down. They could do this, but putting Mousehold to sleep isn't the worst thing either. But Farigiraf could be a real problem also for my Gengar in the back. I would have rather hit the Sleep Powder into its intended target, but hitting it into Mousehold is still okay. I have to hit it at all. I do. Thank you, Compound Eyes. And what's Farigiraf going for here? Is it Trick Room? Is it Roar? It's Roar again. Now, I did give Vivillon an odd HP value, so it can come in safely one more time at 1 HP. But and we see the damage adding up on Gyarados. I'm in a weird spot because I don't want to switch Grimmsnarl out here, but Grimmsnarl literally can't do anything right now. I haven't shown Fake Out, so my opponent doesn't know that, but either I just deal with it and switch out to Gengar, or I show them that Grimmsnarl can't do anything here. I think I'm going to go ahead and switch to Gengar. I don't think they're going to throw a Psychic Attack into the Grimmsnarl slot right now. And I can go for some damage on Farigiraf with Waterfall. I wonder if they'll Roar the Gyarados slot again. Mousehold has to sleep this turn. The awkward thing is if it wakes up next turn, because I probably am just looking to knock out Farigiraf at this point. And Farigiraf can be a threat to Gengar once it knows Gengar is on the field, if I don't knock it out quickly. They have Ally Switch. Stealth Rock, Roar, Follow Me, Ally Switch, really pulling out all the stops here. It's pretty cool. Okay, the mice take a lot from the Waterfall, but what I wanted was damage on Farigiraf. I'm gonna Mega Evolve and Sludge Bomb Farigiraf here. They can't safely Ally Switch. They can gamble out on it anyway, but I don't think they will. But Mousehold could wake up here. It doesn't have to yet, but there's a chance. I think Mousehold probably went for Follow Me, but fortunately it stays asleep. Let's see what Sludge Bomb plus Waterfall into Farigiraf does. Oh, I don't love that damage. Oh, I really don't love that damage. And they show Shadow Ball into Gengar. Interesting. I guess that covers a little bit more stuff than like Psychic would, because I have Armarouge. Okay, but I think if I Protect here, Waterfall should knock out Mousehold. Let's see what my opponent has to cover for that. Maybe they Protect Mousehold and Roar Gyarados, because the Protect on Gengar is a little obvious. But yeah, I have to play this a bit carefully. I can't just recklessly attack, because I think Mousehold will wake up this turn if I remember how the sleep nerf works correctly. Okay, Gengar protects. Mousehold does wake up, and it does Follow Me. do get my Waterfall, I think is KOs. The first one did 51%. That was a crit. It's possible that it was a roll, so there might be some scenario where the crit mattered, but, you know, it also might well not have. The first one did 51%. It's kind of on that line. And the last Pokemon for my opponent is Chestnut. And I think I'm probably okay to just Perish Song again. Right? Like, the Farigiraf can mess with me a little bit with Roar, but I have 2 Pokemon in the back, and Vivillon still can come in on Stealth Rock, so I think I just Perish Song here. And I mean, I'll Waterfall Farigiraf. Maybe I flinch it. So in the end, I think this probably turns out fine, but my opponent definitely shook things up with all the crazy support moves they brought. Some really cool creative stuff here. Ally switch again. So maybe I'll flinch Chestnut. First I get the Perish Song. And I mean, I still have my physically bulky Grimmsnarl on the back, so I feel very good about getting through these 3 turns. Waterfall tickles Chestnut a little bit, 12%. And they show high horsepower to knock out Gengar. Okay. But fortunately, that Farigiraf, in all the shenanigans it was doing, none of them were Trick Room, so Gengar gets to safely outspeed everything except Aerodactyl. As I talked about before, do I go Vivillon right away? I think I go Grimmsnarl. I can't... Grimmsnarl can't do anything. I think I already have my screens up. I'm going to double check. I do have my screens up, and Grimmsnarl's other moves are priority. Here, I'll click Parting Shot into... No, you know what? Just on the off chance that it's not Armor Tail, because I don't actually want to pivot Grimmsnarl out here, just in case it's somehow not Armor Tail, I should actually Fake Out instead of Parting Shot. Because I don't want Parting Shot to actually work. And I guess I'll just protect Gyarados this turn. It's definitely going to be Armor Tail for Farigiraf, right? But I think it is optimal not to do so. Sap. What are his other abilities? Sap Sipper and Cudchew, right? What? Well, I'm glad I clicked Fake Out there. Here, I'll do it again. Never mind, you can't in Champions. Here, I'll set my Reflect back up a turn early. And I'm gonna Waterfall the Chestnut slot. I'm calling there's another Ally Switch here. But really the Perish count is my win con at this point. There's no Ally Switch. Never what I expected, huh? Well, we get to see that Waterfall animation again. That's an awesome animation. And then Gyarados gets chipped a little bit by Shadow Ball, but it doesn't do very much. I never Mega Evolved Gyarados, so it's also not weak to Body Press. Grimmsnarl takes Body Press pretty well with all that bulk. And now it's the last turn of the Perish count. I still have Vivillon on the back, so... I mean, I think this was guaranteed already, but it's definitely guaranteed now. I could have just Waterfalled again for the animation, but whatever. Stats-wise, all the Perish Song KOs belong to Gengar, so good Gengar week, statistically. No need to take anything away from it onto the Farigiraf, right? Guessing they'll... Oh! Faint Gyarados, okay. I'm trying to get one more KO before it ends. I was going to say I was guessing they double Grimmsnarl, but yeah, that makes sense too. I mean, again, Vivillon on the back guaranteed won the game, even if they had some way to knock out everything. Actually, Roar Grimmsnarl out, that's pretty funny. Vivillon will take Stealth Rock damage one more time, but it will survive thanks to that odd HP value. Rare moment where that optimization actually pays off. Although I guess it didn't really matter to the outcome of this game, because Grimmsnarl could come right back in and win. Well, Grimmsnarl being in the back wins, because my opponent's last 2 Pokemon faint here. And with that, it's GG's to the Azure Bay Chatots. Super fun set. The Stealth Rock Roar combination and then the Ally Switch on top was interesting to see, that's for sure. But the Halifax Masquerainmen do stay in the win column this week. We will be staying in first place in Pool B for now. Whether we're alone there or that's shared with anyone else is yet to be seen. But another solid week, having a lot of fun with this draft so far. And one more shout out to all the creative text from my opponent. GG's once again. This week's other matches around the league start with the Ryan Green Blue Porygon 2s taking on the Snowpoint Snorunts. And by the way, it looks like my own match was the only one played in Pokemon Champions this week, which is fine. It's primarily a showdown league. We're going to get a lot of showdown here. But, okay, Porygon 2s and Snorunts. And I don't see the Hisuian Samurott that's been going crazy for the Snorunts so far, but I do see both the Mega Gardevoir and the Mega Feraligatr able to do a lot of damage in Tailwind set up by the Whimsicott, as well as Meowstic being able to set up manual Psychic Terrain for Gardevoir if it wants, or give a whole bunch of other kinds of support. Fanform, Rotom, and Tauros are also here. Fire Tauros. Do they cover for anything specific? I mean, they generally round out the coverage pretty well. Tauros especially complements Feraligatr and Gardevoir nicely. There was a little bit of guesswork because I don't remember exactly what the Porygon 2s have that they didn't bring, although we're pretty familiar with these 6 Pokemon from the Porygon 2s at this point, and they're all very strong. They probably are some of the stronger threats on the roster. I think it's probably Mega Blastoise. I don't even remember if anyone has regular Blastoise, so I could see the Fan Rotom being here to help deal with that. And maybe like slow down the Arcanine with Electro Web or something as well. Maybe, oh, it can also threaten Basculegion. And the Fire-type Tauros, I don't see anything particular here that it covers for, except sort of Kangaskhan, but a lot of things are neutral into Kangaskhan. Tauros also notably is not very strong into Basculegion or Blastoise, although it can intimidate Basculegion. It can also intimidate Arcanine. It does have a marginal advantage over Arcanine, which is kind of a threat into Gardevoir. And it can kind of threaten Sylveon offensively as well, but I think the simplest way to look at this is probably Tauros is just a Pokemon that synergizes well with a Feraligatr or Gardevoir game plan, and Rotom probably is here to help deal with the Basculegion and Blastoise on the other side. And on the Porygon 2 side, like I said, we're pretty familiar with these Pokemon already. Arcanine is sort of one of the best answers that they can throw at Mega Gardevoir. It can also intimidate Mega Feraligatr, as well as Tauros, although I'd say it loses to Tauros 1v1. Sylveon can probably threaten Mega Feraligatr pretty effectively with the right set. We saw Kangaskhan go crazy last week with the fake out damage. A lot of these Pokemon are not super on the Snorunt side are not super physically bulky, and Kangaskhan can't be intimidated by Tauros if it has Scrappy, so the fake outs could do some real damage this week. And actually, there's no normal resist on the other side. It could just be the Last Resort set again. Basculegion's really good. Espathra can Baton Pass boost. That's probably the main thing it wants to do here. There's not a lot of potential for it to sweep itself or something, but let's see. So we get Blastoise leading with Arcanine against Rotom and Gardevoir. Rotom leading, maybe trying to catch a scary water type like Blastoise immediately in the lead position, which it does, although Rotom as a flying type is definitely threatened by Arcanine. I paused because Gardevoir traced the Rain Dish from Blastoise, and I wanted to call that out, but Gardevoir switches out immediately, so it won't be doing anything with Rain Dish. We do see that it's Rain Dish Blastoise for whatever that's worth. It probably wants to Mega Evolve immediately every single time it hits the field. We see the Tauros actually switch in against these two, so maybe trying to protect the Rotom from Rock-type damage with the Intimidate into Arcanine. We'll see. Blastoise Mega Evolves, the Fake Out goes into Rotom for 10%. Rotom flinches, and Arcanine goes straight for Iron Head, ignoring the Rotom, straight from -1 Iron Head into what was Gardevoir, but now is Steel Resist in that Fire-type Tauros. Arcanine now switches out to Sylveon as we get an Electro Web confirmed on Rotom. Does some damage to Blastoise, crits Sylveon, so reasonable damage there as well. And Tauros just goes straight for close combat into what was Arcanine, but is now Sylveon. And we see White Herb on the Tauros, restoring its lowered stats, so it'll take a hit somewhat better. It also is, of course, not weak to the Fairy-type damage from Sylveon because of its Fire typing. That's only a neutral hit. It is weak to Water-type damage from the Blastoise, but Blastoise doesn't go for that. It goes for Dark Pulse into Rotom. Why do I think it went for Dark Pulse? Non-zero chance that they forgot that fan form Rotom isn't a Ghost type, but I don't want to assume that. If the Blastoise has, like, Water Pulse, maybe it just doesn't have Water Pulse. I mean, I guess maybe the simplest answer is they thought maybe they don't have Water Pulse, which would also be neutral into Rotom, and they have Water Spout, but they thought Blastoise might take a bunch of damage first, and the Water Spout would be weakened. That would make sense, if that's what the decision was. We see another Electro Web, chipping these Pokemon down, and, I mean, the speed drops are not that significant at this point, because Rotom was outspeeding things anyway, but it is also stacking those up. Tauros goes for Iron Head into Sylveon, but Sylveon takes that extremely well after the Babiri Berry, and Blastoise now showing Flash Cannon into Rotom. So we've seen Fake Out, Flash Cannon, and Dark Pulse. There's only room for one Water-type attack. It might well be Water Spout, and that might be why they're not clicking Water Pulse or something like that here. As for why they went for Flash Cannon, which of course is resisted by the Rotom, maybe they thought Gardevoir would switch back in? I don't know. Oh, it actually goes into Tauros, so, but it's still resisted. But Dark Pulse would be as well. We see Protect on Tauros and Sylveon. We see another Electro Web. Blastoise is in range of the next one at this point. It does show Water Pulse, so no Water Spout. I'm not sure why it clicked Dark Pulse. The only thing on this team that... The only two things that covers better than Water Pulse are Meowstic and Feraligatr. So, I mean, they could be trying to call switches, right, that are not occurring to me. Completely plausible, but... We do finally see the Water Pulse now, but it goes into a Protect. And Rotom is able to get, I was going to say 2 KOs with Electro Web, but actually Sylveon narrowly takes it. Blastoise does drop though, and then Sylveon is knocked out by an Iron Head. Even the Babiri Berry, if it still had that, wouldn't save it here. Arcanine comes back in. I missed it earlier, but there is no Intimidate on this Arcanine. It's probably got Rock Head for Flare Blitz and Head Smash, so it doesn't take recoil damage. And we see Basculegion as the last Pokemon, so... The Porygon 2s have not been able to accomplish a whole lot in this game so far, but they have 2 very powerful offensive threats on the field that might well quickly bring them back into this, especially as there's really nothing on the Snorunts side to take a last respect from this Basculegion. Basculegion has to be a little bit afraid of Rotom. Rotom has clicked Electro Web every single turn. It might be Choice Scarfed, but it also might be in range of Arcanine Extreme Speed. I'm not sure. And if Basculegion is able to just say it has a Choice Scarf as well, if it locks itself into Last Respects, it might well just sweep, but that makes some assumptions that I can't actually make right now, so let's see what actually happens when we get proper information. Electro Web comes out first. It does a lot to Basculegion. It also gets that speed drop. We see a close combat from Tauros next, knocking out the Arcanine. Basculegion will get a chance to move. It's Last Respects. It knocks out Tauros, but the Rotom is still there, and now Feraligatr is there as well, and Basculegion is at -1 speed. And it just drops to a single target Electro Web. So I thought there was a real chance, depending on Basculegion's set. I mean, I think it also, like I said, kind of counted on the Arcanine taking out the Rotom. Maybe it didn't need... So, like, I think Scarf Basculegion and Extreme Speed Arcanine, if the Extreme Speed KO'd the Rotom, had a chance there. I guess the alternative is Basculegion protects, but I don't think Basculegion is... And Arcanine attacks, but I don't think Basculegion is fast enough to beat the 2 Mega Threats after that. Obviously, only one of them can Mega Evolve, but still. But whatever was going on there, it didn't work out that way for the Porygon 2s, and the Snorunts pretty smoothly closed this one out. Basculegion is a Pokemon that can pull you back from a seemingly lost position, but it didn't happen this time. And let's see if the Porygon 2s can find a better position in Game 2. We see Kangaskhan leading with Arcanine against Whimsicott and Gardevoir. Gardevoir copies Rockhead, confirming that ability, although I think we pretty well knew by now. Whimsicott and Gardevoir both protect around the Kangaskhan Fake Out, which goes into Whimsicott. And we just see Head Smash from Arcanine into Gardevoir, but no damage on the board this turn. Kangaskhan switches out to Blastoise. Blastoise maybe the Porygon 2 is bringing Kangaskhan this time in the hope that it can come back in and give some Fake Out cover to Blastoise when Blastoise tries to sweep. Gardevoir will Mega Evolve right away this time. Goes straight for a Hyper Voice, but it doesn't do a ton to these 2 Pokemon, Blastoise being bulky and Arcanine resisting, and Arcanine just immediately takes Gardevoir out with a Head Smash, so there goes the Snorunts Mega already. They bring the Tauros in next, they intimidate these 2 Pokemon. We know the close combat can be threatening, but we also do now know that this Blastoise does have Water Pulse. Its Water-type damage is not weakened by the damage that it's taken to its hit points. Whimsicott and Tauros both protecting here. Whimsicott also set up Tailwind. I don't know if I said that before. Tauros avoids a couple of attacks. Now Arcanine switches out to Basculegion. So they show they did bring both water types. They switched both slots, so Kangaskhan comes back in. Kangaskhan takes a lot from a Moonblast, but Basculegion comes in on the close combat, making use of that immunity, right? The fighting weak Arcanine switching out, and Tauros takes the bait, and that'll burn another turn of the opponent's Tailwind with minimal damage. And then Kangaskhan Fake Out Pressure will get them through the next turn as both opposing Pokemon protect. On the other hand, Basculegion also shows protect, so I think that'll confirm no Choice Scarf on it. But on the other hand, the Whimsicott is free to set the Tailwind right back up because of the way this positioning worked out. Kangaskhan switches out now to Blastoise. We don't see Tailwind, we see Encore, locking Basculegion into Protect. Very awkward spot for Basculegion. Blastoise does take the close combat switching in, but it hasn't done any damage yet in this game, and it's already very low. We see Tauros using the Mirror Herb to get rid of the drops. Basculegion switches out to Arcanine so that it's not just stuck clicking Protect anymore. We see Whimsicott protecting around the Blastoise Fake Out, but Tauros not protecting this time. The Snorunts perhaps realizing that those Fake Outs keep going into Whimsicott. I think that's what happened the last couple times. No, the Kangaskhan Fake Out actually went into Tauros, but even so, they realize they have an opening here with the Tauros. They knock out the Blastoise before it can do anything. Kangaskhan is back. Yes, I started to say Basculegion. I was just assuming, and so I made an ass of you and me. But now Whimsicott switches out to Rotom. Rotom is here to be a menace again. Is it just going to keep clicking Electro Web? Probably not, as the Kangaskhan Fake Out does a lot of damage to Tauros. And then an Arcanine Head Smash just takes out the Rotom. No Electro Web this time. Whimsicott's back, but Whimsicott and Tauros are alone now. Whimsicott did not go for Tailwind, we know, because it moved after Arcanine. And Arcanine didn't use Extreme Speed, it used Head Smash and knocked Whimsicott down to a Focus Sash. It's just Moonblast into Kangaskhan, not quite enough to KO. Tauros does take out Arcanine with a close combat, but the Basculegion is still... Well, first Kangaskhan gets to move, and it shows that it is running the Fake Out Last Resort set. Like I said, makes sense when the Snorunts have not brought a single normal resist. So that takes out Tauros, and this 1 HP Whimsicott is all that's left. It'll just drop to a Basculegion Aqua Jet. So the Porygon 2s got kind of overwhelmed in Game 1, but showed the offensive power of their team in Game 2. Even with Blastoise accomplishing nothing, other Pokemon stepped up. The Kangaskhan is still a menace with that Fake Out, but really the Arcanine coming into some decent positions and clicking Head Smash and just taking KOs one by one with that attack was probably the biggest difference in Game 2. So let's see if they can keep it going in Game 3, or if they try something different. Kangaskhan leads with Espathra this time, so that is something different against a Rotom and Feraligatr. Feraligatr Mega Evolves right away, but gets crit by Kangaskhan Fake Out and loses almost a quarter of its HP, plus it'll flinch this turn. Rotom not Electro Webbing this time. It'd be offset, I guess, by Espathra's speed boost anyway, but it just Volt Switches out, chips Kangaskhan a decent amount. Gardevoir comes in and copies the speed boost. That's always fun. We've seen Gardevoir copy speed boost on this channel before. It can be a pretty strong accidental tech. But Espathra sets up a Calm Mind, and if I remember correctly how Speed Boost works, yes, only Espathra gets the boost this turn, so it's one boost ahead. Feraligatr protects, we see Shadow Sneak on the Gardevoir. Weakness policy is not in this game, right? Also, the only other ghost weakness they brought is Meowstic. There's no side weakness policy thing. This is just Shadow Sneak Gardevoir looking to get priority damage into Espathra, I guess, but it's a 40 base power non-stab physical attack from a Gardevoir, so it doesn't do very much damage. You know what? Maybe it's a finishing move into Basculegion. Maybe it's to cover for like Sashed Basculegion that survives things at 1 HP and just sweeps, except Gardevoir can knock it out with Shadow Sneak, and then it also can work into a low HP Espathra. It's an interesting idea for sure. I definitely didn't see it coming, but I can understand the situations where it's helpful, but it didn't do very much here, and then Gardevoir just dropped to a last resort. And Espathra is still boosting its speed. Tauros is here now, but it's so vulnerable to this Lumina Crash, right? And sure enough, Lumina Crash into Tauros just knocks that out immediately. Last Resort does a lot to Feraligatr. Feraligatr does hold on. It double edges Espathra, but in doing so, it only manages to knock itself out. Espathra holds on at 1% after that Dragonized boosted double edge. Feraligatr is gone. And only Rotom is left, but Espathra is at +3 speed now. It doesn't even attack, it just baton passes the speed boost to Basculegion. Arcanine also switching in. We get an Electro Web from Rotom, but I mean, Basculegion is still faster at +2 speed. It uses Waterfall, interestingly, instead of... Well, it can't use Last Respects here. I mean, it can if it wants, but it's not boosted because the Snorunts haven't even taken a KO. But Basculegion not even showing Wave Crash, it shows Waterfall. And Rotom takes less than half from that. Gets another Electro Web, but Arcanine knocking it out with the Head Smash. And the Porygon 2s, after a tough Game 1, move on from the Mega Blastoise, leave that Pokemon behind, and kind of dominate the rest of this set. Showing, like I said, the offensive firepower of their team. Basculegion was very scary, but honestly, it was more scary than actually accomplished here. I think the real hero was the Hisuian Arcanine just taking KOs with Head Smash. The Kangaskhan hitting everything very hard with Fake Out and Last Resort was strong as well, and the Espathra was a lot of fun to watch in Game 3 for sure. So the Porygon 2 is kind of putting Pool B on notice there, that their team has some offensive threats, and it's hard to deal with all of them in the same matchup. Next, we have the Louisiana Hypercutters taking on the Revolting Raichus. The Raichus have brought familiar Sandcore at this point. We've seen most of these Pokemon. We've seen all these Pokemon before. I think we've seen this exact 6 before at least once, with Gourgeist being a Trick Room setter. And the other Pokemon don't need a whole lot of explanation. Tyranitar sets up the Sand. Garchomp benefits from it. It's Mega Garchomp, if I recall correctly, so it can even get Sand Force when it's Mega Evolved. It can click Earthquake next to Corviknight or Rotom. Both of those are immune to the side Earthquake damage. Corviknight is a bulky threat that doesn't care about sand damage itself, and also, I was going to say there's no Intimidate on the other side. There is Intimidate on the other side. They have Staraptor. So also, Corviknight gives Garchomp and Tyranitar some cover from Intimidate. Primarina gives them a special attack that covers for the weaknesses of the other Pokemon, and actually Rotom does that as well. So, very solid, well-rounded Sandcore. Kind of nuts that they got to draft all this. Definitely pretty hard to deal with. And on the Hypercutters side, we got some Trick Room options. They have the Mega Chimecho with Mudsdale and Mega Heracross. The Melodic could be very strong into the main Sandcore from the Raichus, things like Garchomp and Tyranitar, but it has to be a little bit afraid of Rotom and maybe even Gourgeist, depending on its set. But Melodic could be very, very strong if they position it right. Infernape is interesting as an offensive threat to Corviknight and Tyranitar and Gourgeist, and like maybe Primarina, depending on its set. So yeah, they have fast options as well with Infernape and Staraptor. They have to be a little bit careful with the Intimidate, like I said, with Corviknight around. But in fact, I wouldn't be shocked if we don't actually see Staraptor. I mean, if we don't actually see Staraptor brought to a game here. And I know it's not Mega Staraptor. I know nobody has that in Pool B, but yeah, that and Infernape for a fast option can outspeed whatever the other side has, but the Hypercutters also have the most convincing Trick Room Pokemon here. Like, I also wouldn't be shocked if we don't see the Gourgeist. Although maybe Gourgeist shows up to threaten Melodic and Mudsdale, but I don't think the Raichus are super likely to want to do their own Trick Room stuff when the stronger Trick Room attackers are on the other side. And the Melodic, I don't know specifically what game plans the Melodic fits into. It could have, like, Fake Out support from Infernape, maybe benefit from Intimidate from Staraptor. But it's kind of a one Pokemon threat to a lot of what the Raichus have brought if it gets a chance to set up. So let's see what the game plans are for that. We see Corviknight and Garchomp leading against Infernape and Chimecho. So the Raichus are threatening that Earthquake spam immediately. Chimecho, of course, is immune, both before and after Mega Evolving. In fact, Chimecho is pretty cozy in this position. It's not very threatened by anything. And it looks to me like the Hypercutters are probably telegraphing a Trick Room game plan here, as Infernape fakes something out and Chimecho sets Trick Room. The Trick Room looks pretty free here. So the Raichus want to lead with the Garchomp offense immediately, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to get it going very easily in this game. Garchomp Mega Evolves, so does Chimecho. The Fake Out goes into Garchomp. Notably, Garchomp does not have rough skin after Mega Evolving, so because it Mega Evolved, if the Infernape has a Focus Sash, that Sash is still intact for now. But Corviknight taunts the Chimecho. You know, there was a little voice in the back of my head saying, I wonder if Corviknight gets taunt. I think it might, and I wasn't sure, and I didn't mention it. And so if the Hypercutters didn't know that, I'm not sure I blame them. But the Chimecho does get taunted. So much for the Trick Room setup being pretty free. It almost certainly would have worked if the Fake Out had gone into Corviknight. Maybe the Garchomp... That's it. Maybe the Garchomp is running Crunch or something, but, like, is it really going to one-shot Mega Chimecho? Seems unlikely to me. But, yeah, the Fake Out might have just gone into the wrong target here. Otherwise, the Trick Room would have been pretty safe, I think. But anyway, Infernape switches out to Mudsdale, but there's no Trick... Garchomp shows Fire Blast. That's what they have for Mega Chimecho, but yeah, it only does about half. So if the Fake Out had just gone into Corviknight, this is a different game. Instead, Corviknight sets Tailwind. Chimecho throws off a Dazzling Gleam. It's not amazing damage. We see Primarina switch in. Chimecho switches out to Infernape. Garchomp confirming it's not just a mixed Garchomp with Fire Blast. This is a special Mega Garchomp, as Earth Power does almost half to Mudsdale. and gives it a stamina boost that neither of these two opposing Pokemon cares about. And Primarina obviously is a giant threat into Mudsdale, but let's see what Mudsdale does. High horsepower into Garchomp, not amazing damage. Mega Garchomp showing its bulk already. Infernape is here with the Fake Out pressure, but... well, okay, Fake Out into Primarina is not bad for killing a turn of Tailwind, because Mudsdale probably takes another... especially as it shows leftovers here, Mudsdale should take another Earth Power. Mudsdale probably doesn't take a Draco Meteor if Garchomp has that, but... yeah, there's a ton of offensive pressure here from the Raichus, but a Fake Out into Primarina might buy a little bit of time for the Hypercutters. Let's see. Fake Out does hit the Primarina. The Raichus have just never protected around a Fake Out so far. Garchomp does not Draco Meteor the Mudsdale. It goes for Earth Power into Infernape, knocking it down to the Focus Sash that we do now see that it has. So Infernape would have been knocked out here if it had taken Rough Skin damage earlier, but I understand better now why Garchomp wanted to Mega Evolve immediately. Actually, I don't know Mega Garchomp's special attack. I don't know if it's any higher than regular Garchomp, but if it is, I can understand it wanting that power boost. Primarina will at least not be able to Hyper Voice here, so buys a little bit of time for the Hypercutters. And Mudsdale Body Press at +1 lands a crit that I'm not super confident matters and takes out the Garchomp. Last turn of Tailwind, Infernape switches out to Chimecho, Mudsdale protects. Thunderbolt goes into the Chimecho, and Primarina still not throwing off that Hyper Voice, probably anticipating that the opponent would protect on the last turn of Tailwind, just positioning for next turn with Calm Mind. And that Hyper Voice is still so incredibly threatening, and I'm not sure there's anything the Hypercutters can do about it in this position. They haven't shown anything that they can do about it. +1 Primarina looks like it might run away with this game. We see Rotom switch out to Corviknight. We see Chimecho actually outspeeding the Primarina. Chimecho has higher base speed than Primarina. Mega Chimecho does. Who knew? Not me. Well, but anyway, Psychic does not do much to Corviknight as it went into the Rotom slot, but it hits something it doesn't want to hit. And Hyper Voice at +1 finally just takes 2 KOs like we've been waiting for a couple turns, I think. Heracross is the last Pokemon for the Hypercutters. Infernape is here one more time. The Raichus are still just never clicking Protect in front of this Infernape. It feels almost disrespectful to Infernape at this point. But of course, I don't know their sets. Like, I don't know which Pokemon have Protect or what, but just unfazed by the Fake Out. Primarina will not get another Hyper Voice here, but Heracross still not targeting the Primarina. Goes for a Rock Blast into Corviknight. Only gets 2 hits. The Tailwind goes right back up, and... well, Infernape moves first the next turn anyway with a Mach Punch that chips Corviknight a little bit. But then it drops to a Brave Bird. And Primarina is probably going to take Heracross out with, yeah, a Moonblast. I do find it vaguely interesting that the Hypercutters just kept targeting the Corviknight when the Primarina was running away with the game. Or threatening to the whole time. Primarina got to play very patiently because it was never under any real pressure. But I do understand it, actually, because Mega Heracross just hard loses to Corviknight. I mean, it also just loses to Primarina is the problem. But yeah, they did need to get rid of the Corviknight. It was kind of just a doomed position for them. Actually, Mudsdale, Heracross, Chimecho, all pretty bad into Corviknight. They didn't really have good answers to it in this game, and it showed. Infernape, though, never showing a Fire-type attack is interesting. I guess because the Tailwind was up, it felt like it needed the Mach Punch priority. But it feels like under different circumstances it could be an offensive threat to Corviknight. But I wonder if we'll see Melodic in Game 2, because they need something to keep Pokemon like Corviknight and Primarina from running away with the game like they did here. So let's see what the adjustment is. Corviknight leads with Primarina this time, the 2 threats immediately against Infernape and Staraptor, but Staraptor's Intimidate is just going to get bounced right back. I mean, it does go into Primarina, but Primarina doesn't care. Infernape showing Close Combat, still not showing a Fire-type attack. Close Combat does a little bit less than half to Corviknight, but that's not the damage they wanted, I'm sure. Staraptor follows up with its own Close Combat, double Close Combat, but it's weaker than the Infernape one. I do love, by the way, this classic Diamond and Pearl playthrough duo on the Hypercutter side here. That double Close Combat is kind of nostalgic, but it's not enough to knock out this Power Crept Gen 8 bird. As Corviknight just not setting the Tailwind here, just goes straight for a Brave Bird. Actually knocks itself out, so the Close Combats do make something of a difference there. As Corviknight drops to the recoil damage, but also knocks Infernape down to its Focus Sash. And Primarina, straight for a Hyper Voice, takes out Infernape. -1 Staraptor does hold on, but not especially well. Heracross is here now. There is no Tailwind now on the Raichu side, but Rotom hits the field, and I wouldn't be surprised to see an Electroweb from it. Let's find out. Heracross Mega Evolves. Oh, Heracross couldn't Mega Evolve in Game 1, so it didn't get Skill Link on its Rock Blast. I only just put that together now. Staraptor actually using Tailwind, so the Hypercutters do get the speed control advantage here. This Rock Blast is Skill Linked. It looks like it will knock out the Rotom. Never mind, it looks like it would have if not for the Citrus Berry, but the Rotom has a Citrus Berry. That Rock Blast did about 20% with each hit, with each standard hit. Actually, we saw that it could do slightly less, so the Rotom had a good chance to survive even without the berry. But it also crit twice. 2 out of 5 hits crit. And purely thanks to the Citrus Berry, Rotom manages to hold on anyway. And now we do see an Electroweb. It knocks out Staraptor, slows down Heracross. Primarina Moonblast does not knock out the Heracross. I was about to say Primarina Moonblast knocks out the Heracross anyway, but not the case. It holds on at 1%, and we do see the Melodic now. They have made that adjustment. We do finally see the Raichus clicking some Protects as well, as they avoid a Scald into Rotom and a Bullet Seed into Primarina. Still a couple turns left to Tailwind. Primarina just switching out to Garchomp, probably knowing it can win the game if it just stays patient. We see Icy Wind from Melodic. Does a bunch to Garchomp. Does not quite get the KO on Rotom. We're back to the old PDL ways of Pokemon holding on at very, very low HP. We've seen it a few times already this week. Heracross, though, protecting, avoids a Thunderbolt. Now Rotom switches out. Primarina is actually back already. Garchomp just protects, avoids an Ice Beam from Melodic. Melodic showing it as Ice Beam and Icy Wind. Definitely not some kind of setup set if it has Scald, Icy Wind, and Ice Beam. It's probably not Coil Stuff. I already said definitely. I think it's definitely not Coil Stuff. Heracross shows Knockoff, gets rid of Primarina's leftovers. Garchomp now will Mega Evolve. We see Primarina protect. Garchomp still just gets knocked out by an Ice Beam. But Primarina avoids a Bullet Seed, and now Rotom can come back in, and there is no more Tailwind on the other side. Rotom actually protecting here. So is Heracross. Melodic throws off an Icy Wind, but Melodic clearly just not threatening any significant damage into Primarina. But Primarina went for Hyper Voice, so it doesn't do much to Melodic either. But the Rotom still feels like the biggest threat on the field right now, and sure enough, Heracross fails a double protect, Rotom knocks it out. Melodic Icy Wind will take out the Rotom. So it's just Primarina versus Melodic now, and Primarina doesn't have its leftovers anymore. It does still have Calm Mind. Melodic fishing for the burn with Scald, gets the burn immediately, but Primarina has a neutral hit available. It has a couple of boosts already, and it has a neutral hit available with Moonblast, which we see there doing a lot of damage. Melodic uses Citrus Berry, but Melodic has no way to do comparable. It also shows Life Dew, but I think the Moonblast is going to damage it too quickly. Yeah, the next one knocks it down to 1%. Melodic just does not have the damage into Primarina that Primarina has into Melodic, and so Primarina, not too bothered by the burn, just goes up to +2 and closes out the game. Amazing game for Primarina. Amazing set for Primarina this week. Looked like a nightmare Pokemon in a way that... I mean, it's strong, but in a way that I don't usually see. Next, the Fluffy Friends take on the Calgary Camerupt. The Fluffy Friends, I believe, have brought the same 6 Pokemon every week so far. Interestingly, they did bring... And I did see messages in the Discord that told me this had happened. They do bring 4 Dark types and a Dragon type against the Mega Floette team. Now, Incineroar is not weak to Fairy, so they only brought 4 Fairy weaknesses against Mega Floette, but that's still a lot of Fairy weaknesses to bring against Mega Floette. And also, the Camerupt also brought their Alchemy, so there's 2 Fairy types against all that. Garbodor, I think, is going to have its work cut out for it. But also, the Camerupt have other threats here, like Crocodile. If it has a Choice Scarf or something, I mean, Crocodile is outsped and threatened by Meowscarada, Greninja, even Dragapult to an extent, but... Well, you know what Crocodile can do pretty effectively? It can remove the Garbodor that is probably genuinely the biggest threat to Floette in this matchup. Dragonite, Lycanroc, and Overqwil are also a mix of hard-hitting Pokemon, and Alchemy can click Decorate into any of those teammates and watch them go nuts, so let's see. Incineroar leads with Pangoro against Overqwil and Floette. Pangoro showing Scrappy, unfazed by the Intimidate, but otherwise Intimidates go both ways. Floette just protects here, and so does Overqwil, avoiding the Incineroar Fake Out as Pangoro goes for Body Slam into Overqwil. That's an interesting tech, trying to paralyze it. Floette now Mega Evolves, and Big Dazzling Gleam knocks out Pangoro, does decent damage to Incineroar as Overqwil just goes for Stockpile. Overqwil taking advantage of the offensive pressure from Floette, I guess, to enable itself to stick around on the field for a while. I don't know if it's going to start clicking Toxic if Floette goes down, but we'll see. Incineroar throws a Fire Punch at Floette, does some damage. Now Dragapult comes in. Floette switching out. Floette may be a little bit pressured by this Dragapult. It took almost 40% from Incineroar Fire Punch. Maybe Dragapult could do some real damage to it with like a Phantom Force. But Krookodile comes in, shows Intimidate, and it does intimidate Dragapult. This is not Clear Body Dragapult. I don't know which ability it does have, but not the one I expected. So if it's physical Dragapult, it will be weakened now. We do see Garbodor hitting the field for the Fluffy Friends. I guess that is their Floette answer. Although it doesn't come in until now when Floette is already switched out. Or Floette, the same time that Floette switches out. Okay, fair enough. But Garbodor, like I said, is threatened by the Krookodile, so Krookodile could put in some work here. And also, I don't know what's ever removing this Overquill. We see Phantom Force from Dragapult. We see Minimize from Overquill. The Calgary Camerupt, as their coach has told me, I think, embracing evil for a little bit here. And it dodges... Oh, its nickname is Last Resort. I guess that's appropriate. Although, it's game 1, and you brought 2 fairies to the... To a fairy weakness fight. you're gonna throw your Last Resort out immediately and just go nuts with it. I'm getting mixed signals here, Raymer King. But anyway, okay. It dodges the Phantom Force. And Krookodile, Throat Chop, crits Dragapult, knocks it down to a Focus Sash. Okay. And we see Life Orb on Krookodile. Overquill still going for the Minimize. Garbodor has had enough. It just explodes. Does nothing to Dragapult, of course, but also does nothing to Overquill because it misses. Does some damage to Krookodile, but knocks nothing out except itself, and there goes their Floette answer. Now Incineroar's back, and Dragapult's at 1 HP. Overquill switches out. What in the... I'm sorry, what... So you named your Pokemon Last Resort, and you gave it a very Last Resort appropriate moveset, and then you threw it out there as your first resort, and then you said, just kidding, and switched it. Okay, the Camerupt are playing on a whole other level. It's beyond my skill to explain this one. I'm humbled as a commentator, I guess. But anyway, this is as good a time as any to double check that I'm recording and the mic is working. But anyway, Floette is back. Krookodile is protecting here, avoids the fake out. Dragapult goes for Phantom Force again. Floette switches back out to Overquill to get another Intimidate, I guess, but I mean, it had stockpile boosts and now it doesn't. W switching to reclaim the moral high ground after abandoning it, clicking Minimize. I'm not sure that's how it works. Smoliv stay strong, but sure. Alchemy showed up at some point. Overquill took 8% from a -1 Phantom Force, and then Fire Punch does about 40 to Alchemy. And Overquill's back to just sitting here. We see Phantom Force. Decorate goes through Protect. I would not have guessed that. That's good to know. I had Alchemy in a PDL season, and I don't think I knew that Decorate goes through Protect. But now Overquill's boosted. Alchemy still takes another Fire Punch. Then it switches out to Krookodile. Gets to intimidate these two again. Staraptor. Dragapult is on another plane of existence, and it's still afraid of this Krookodile. So now the -3? Is it -3 now? I think it's -3 Phantom Force. That does like nothing to Krookodile. And we see Barb Barrage from Overquill. Finally, Overquill had to go to +2, I guess, to knock out the 1 HP Dragapult with a Barb Barrage. Lash Out from Incineroar. Does Lash Out do extra damage if the target got a stat boost? Do I remember that right? So if Overquill had been decorated again, that would have done like 30% instead of... Oh, anyway. Barb Barrage. Incineroar's poisoned. Krookodile protected. Incineroar survives the poison damage at 1%. Now the Camerupt's still just switching around, looking for the 4-0, I guess, and they get it with a Barb Barrage. And I don't know what Ghost is doing in the chat there, but we're going to move on to game 2. But game 1 has kind of blown my mind. I have no idea what to expect now, so we're just going to go. Okay, Overquill Floette again, this time against Meowscarada and Greninja. Intimidate into Meowscarada, and also Greninja, but probably more relevant into Meowscarada. Masquerainmen goes straight for a knockoff into Floette, but we know that Floette has the Mega Stone, so it's not going to do very much, but also it goes into Protect here, so does nothing. We see Liquidation from Greninja, so Greninja showing a physical attack means it does care about the Intimidate. Also not running Protean, so I guess running Torrent because Battle Bond is illegal. Flower Trick, Flower Trick crits the Floette. Flower Trick is a guaranteed crit. With that guaranteed crit, it looks like a 2-hit KO into at least non-Mega Floette, so there's a lot more damage than knockoff would have. Imagine if they still had stab on it. But Floette, Dazzling Gleam, actually does not knock anything out. I don't know why the Floette didn't Mega Evolve here. It would have taken 2 KOs. Yeah, the Focus Sash is on Dragapult. It would have taken 2 KOs here if it had Mega Evolved. I don't know why it doesn't. Are they trying to funnel everything back to the last resort? I don't know, but Floette drops to a Liquidation, so there goes that Fairy type advantage. Barb Barrage, however, knocks out Masquerainmen. Maybe they are just trying to pad Overquill's stats here. We see Crocodile, we see Incineroar come in, we see Crocodile come in, we see Intimidates both ways. Overquill now switching out to Alchemy. As Crocodile protects, we see, but the Fake Out goes into the Alchemy instead. Liquidation into the Protect. Leftovers Greninja. I probably could have noticed that earlier, but I didn't. Got another Intimidate from Overquill. Just Intimidate pivoting here. We know that the Greninja is physical. We know that the Dragapult is even susceptible to Intimidate. So yeah, Raymer switching those two Pokemon back and forth makes perfect sense. Probably not going to happen now because the Overquill has been decorated again. But honestly, who knows at this point? Maybe the Camerupt will switch Pokemon just for the fun of it. But I think we're going to see some more Barb Barrages. It's a fun move to say, at least. Dragapult Phantom Forces, Incineroar switches out to Greninja. Greninja takes a probably unnecessary crit from that Barb Barrage, and we get another Decorate. The Overquill is going up to +4, now down to +3 after an Intimidate, but the Decorate outpacing the Intimidate. Fake Out into Overquill. That's another Decorate if they want it. Phantom Force doesn't do much to Overquill. There's a Decorate. Overquill's at +5 attack. Dragapult shows Thunder Wave. Okay. That's attack. Overquill is going to have its work a little bit more cut out for it here, but Alchemy shows Psych Up, not just decorating its allies, but also decorating itself. And now we have +5 attack and +6 special attack Alchemy, or +5 attack Alchemy if it wants to use that somehow. We have +6 special attack Alchemy against, well, 2 Pokemon are knocked out already, but they brought 3 Fairy weaknesses to this one and no resist. Fire Punch actually does quite a bit to Overquill, and they get a full para, so Overquill might not be padding its stats after all. As it turns out, the Camerupt were once again playing on a whole other level. The Overquill was the decoy this time. Cinema. What can I say? I did the pose from the meme. I know I don't do face cam, but take my word, I did the pose from the meme. Cinema. Okay, well, what's Alchemy going to do? Get paralyzed? Overquill, though, avoiding the Fire Punch. Dazzling Gleam. Knocks Dragapult down to its Sash. Also doesn't knock out the Incineroar, so Overquill still... I almost wish I did face cam right now so I could stare blankly into the camera for a couple seconds. I guess we're still padding Overquill's stats after all, as Alchemy switches out, gives up its boost, brings Crocodile in on a Hex. Overquill drops to a Fire Punch, so we're not padding its stats. I don't know anything. Don't listen to me. I've reached another plane of existence, like the Dragapult when it disappears for a Phantom Force. I don't feel like I know anything anymore. Thank you for listening to me say nonsense into my microphone for untold minutes. This really was a Pokemon showdown, says We Are Pokemon Champions in chat. She switched to her main account for a moment, but I guess we're back. Overquill for KO leader is still a work in progress. You know what? I don't have anything else to say right now. Let me see if I can compose myself for the next match, which is between the Hisuian Houndstones and the Great Barrier Garchomps. The Garchomps bringing the very familiar trio of Talonflame, Garchomp, and Electros. And we already saw the Mega Blastoise in this pool, so they definitely don't have Mega Blastoise. They have regular Blastoise, but they brought... Okay, they brought 2 tanky water types to threaten things like Mega Metagross and Aerodactyl, I assume. Yeah, Aerodactyl is definitely a threat because, well, it's a threat to Talonflame and Garchomp specifically. It's immune to Earthquake, it gets Ice Fang, gets Rock Slide. But they have a ton of threats to Aerodactyl between Blastoise, Rotom, and Electros. Mega Electros, even. They also brought the Mimikyu, so they could do Tail Room stuff if they want. Electros is not like a crazy fast Pokemon. It can definitely play in Trick Room comfortably against things like Aerodactyl, Tauros, and Mega Metagross. There is the Hatterene on the other side, though. They're 1 Pokemon Trick Room mode. They also have Meowstic, so they can set Manual Psychic Terrain if they want. This is the second male Meowstic we've seen in Pool B, so somebody has to have Mega Male Meowstic. I don't remember whether it's this team or the one we already saw. There's also Scovillain. Scovillain can give some redirection cover, maybe direct like a Talonflame Flare Blitz or Rotom Will-O-Wisp away from Metagross. But Metagross is a little bit vulnerable into Garchomp and Electros for sure. I don't know how much we'll actually see of it here, but then what is the game plan if it's not focused on Metagross? It could be Trick Room Hatterene. Aerodactyl looks very good as well, though, so maybe it's just Aerodactyl, Tailwind, Metagross, Tauros for offensive threats. But let's jump in and find out. Metagross leading immediately with Aerodactyl against Blastoise and Mimikyu, so this looks like Fake Out Trick Room on the Garchomp side. Aerodactyl switching out to Scovillain right away. Scovillain, the Fake Out goes into that slot, makes sense. Aerodactyl could have been a threat to taunt the Mimikyu. We see Psychic Fangs from Metagross do a third to Blastoise before Mimikyu does set up Trick Room. We see Leftovers on the Blastoise. Metagross protecting now. Avoiding a Muddy Water, which also misses Scovillain. Scovillain just rips a Leaf Storm immediately into Blastoise. I respect that. I've been having fun with Leaf Storm with a team that will show up in a video or two at some point. If you saw my low usage tournament stream, it's that team. Leaf Storm's a fun move to just click, I've learned. And there it is, taking out the Blastoise. As we see Mimikyu Shadow Claw into the protection. Now Garchomp is here, but it's kind of awkward in Trick Room, right? Although maybe not with Metagross Mega Evolving. I mean, Garchomp has lower base speed than Mega Metagross. I'm pretty sure. Could be Scarf Garchomp. Would make sense on this team. In any case, it is undersped in their own Trick Room and knocked out by an Ice Punch before it gets to do anything. And that leaves Mimikyu, Disguise still intact, and Electros with his Mega Stone for the Porygon 2s, the Garchomps. Apologies to the Shiboogles crew. You are different people and not interchangeable. Okay, Scovillain switches out to Combat Breed Tauros. We do see the Mega Electros. We see a Drain Punch into Tauros, so it's physical Electros, and it's intimidated by Tauros. Tauros doesn't take too much from that. It does get crit by the Mimikyu Shadow Claw, but still here. On the last turn of Trick Room, they're protecting their Electros, their own Trick Room. Mimikyu Play Rough does take out the Tauros. Electros avoids the Psychic Fangs, but now Trick Room is over and Aerodactyl is back. Rock Slide will break the disguise on Mimikyu, chip things down, maybe get a flinch. Well, first we see Psychic Fangs take out the Mimikyu. Perhaps telegraphing that the Metagross doesn't have a Steel-type attack, but which would actually make sense into Talonflame, Electros, Rotom, Blastoise. Like, Steel attacks are not very good into a lot of this team, but it's also possible that they knew Psychic Fangs would KO and just didn't want to show a Steel attack yet, but there's not really much gain to hiding a Steel attack here. They again, it's resisted by most of the other team. They probably just don't have one. We see Thunder Punch at -1, fail to get the KO on the Aerodactyl. Rock Slide and Psychic Fangs, the double up into the one Pokemon left, Mega Electros, knocking it out. So the Garchomps, they made things kind of awkward for themselves in Game 1, right? They set up the Trick Room. I feel like we've seen the Scovillain on this Houndstones team just Leaf Storm KO things a lot of times already. They set up the Trick Room, and then they couldn't really do anything with it because the Metagross actually undersped their Garchomp. And so the Trick Room really just backfired on them. I doubt that they go for it in Game 2, but let's see what the adjustment is here. Metagross leads with Meowstic this time against Electros and Talonflame, so Tailwind, Electros stuff. There's a Tailwind. We see Gravity from the Meowstic. What does the Electros go for? It goes for Coil, so it's trying to set up this game. But Metagross shows Stomping Tantrum. Did we see all 4 of its moves? I don't remember whether we saw it use Protect, but I think we did. And we definitely saw Psychic Fangs and Ice Punch. So confirmed no Steel attack. It is Stomping Tantrum. And normally, the Garchomps would have 3 immunities to that with Rotom, Electros, and Talonflame. But in Gravity, not only do they have 0 immunities, but all 3 of those Pokemon are actually weak to it. So that is an excellent tech from the Houndstones. Super fun to see, and even at +1 defense, Electros takes like 2/3 from that. Now we see Psychic Terrain from the Meowstic. Metagross gets burned by a Will-O-Wisp. We see Drain Punch, so between the burn and the recovery, Electros should be able to take a Stomping Tantrum now. And it does, but not very well. It's still at low HP. Now we see Blaze Kick from Talonflame. Another Drain Punch. That'll knock out Metagross, which was already burned, but Metagross might have liked to get a KO before going down, but maybe it didn't have to because Electros gets that Elevate boost in attack, but won't get to do anything with it as Meowstic. 1-Mon Psy-Spam mode, I guess. Maybe I can't call it Psy-Spam if it's 1-Mon, although they did bring 3 Psychic types to the set, and already we've seen 2 in this game. But Meowstic setting up its own Psychic Terrain and then knocking out the Electros with Expanding Force. Electros was trying to get back into the game with that Drain Punch recovery, but it's too little too late. The setup game plan will fail. Talonflame taking a bunch of damage as well. We can definitely call this Psy-Spam. They brought 3 Psychic types to this game. Hatterene hits the field, but there's no Trick Room, and Garchomp is here. Garchomp's a pretty threatening Pokemon, so what's Hatterene going to do? First, it's just going to Protect. Are we going to see Trick Room from Meowstic? Hatterene avoids a Blaze Kick. Earthquake hits their own Talonflame in Gravity. To be honest, I forgot about that until the Earthquake animation started. I don't know what the Garchomp's coach, maybe they remembered and thought it was worth it, but yeah, they knock out their own Talonflame there. It does do a lot of damage to Meowstic, but it doesn't one-shot. I think with the Blaze Kick into Meowstic, they would have knocked it out here, but instead Meowstic is free to just click Expanding Force. I was wrong. Honestly, I thought Meowstic would set Trick Room. But nope, just an Expanding Force that takes a bunch of damage. That gets a bunch of damage on this Garchomp. And by the way, we got Life Orb confirmed on the Garchomp. So it's just not a fast Mega Metagross, I guess. Because it has the higher base speed, and the Garchomp doesn't have a Choice Scarf. Slow Mega Metagross came in handy in the opponent's Trick Room in Game 1. I doubt that the Garchomps were expecting that. So that helps to explain part of what happened there. Blastoise hits the field with the Garchomps. Meowstic still just throwing off Expanding Force. Does about a third to Blastoise. Muddy Water into both targets. No KOs, but it does get the accuracy drop on Meowstic. And Hatterene now sets its own Trick Room and can probably just sweep the game from here. Garchomp does get a double Protect. Hatterene not going for Expanding Force, even though that would be stronger. Just goes for Dazzling Gleam. Honestly, I wonder whether they forgot that their own Psychic Terrain was up because the Trick Room overrode it in the Showdown background. And I'm not trying to sell the Hisui and Houndstones short in saying that. I get messed up by that feature of how Showdown displays things pretty often. I think I have a lot of videos where I forget that terrain is in effect because it's been overwritten visually by Trick Room or something like that. Even though the text is on the screen, I know, but the text is not as noticeable. I've been fooled by that lots of times. If they forgot that Psychic Terrain was still up, I think that's perfectly understandable. But anyway, Blastoise was able to knock out Meowstic, but now Scovillain's back in Trick Room. It can click Leaf Storm again if it wants. Dazzling Gleam knocks out Garchomp, but Blastoise holds on at 1%, and Muddy Water gets the accuracy drop on Hatterene, but no KOs, and Scovillain does get that final KO with Leaf Storm. And so the Houndstones close things out much the way they started them. Over now to Pool A, where we start with the Ontario Oguris and the Oceanic Oshawotts. That is a shiny Skarmory. I don't remember whether the Oshawotts had shinies in past weeks, but I guess they've chosen a few mons that they want to be shiny, and there's some pretty good ones. Gallade, Lycanroc, I like them. I don't know off the top of my head what shiny Mega Skarmory looks like, but maybe we'll find out. Interesting mixes of Pokemon on both sides here. We got Lycanroc versus Lycanroc here, so that's kind of fun. The Oguris bringing largely their usual stuff. They can set up Floette or Melodic with support from Incineroar or Mousehold. Ditto can turn into an opposing threat. We saw that put in a lot of work against the Marshadows last week. I'm not sure what the Dusk form Lycanroc is here for. Maybe it's here to cover for something that the Oshawotts didn't bring, in which case I'm not going to remember. I mean, it's not bad into Mega Skarmory, right? Because Mega Skarmory trades a lot of bulk for offense. And Accelerock would hit it pretty hard. Accelerock also is a good way to deal with... Oh, Accelerock is a good way to deal with low HP Raichu so that it can't just endeavor through their setup game plan. That might be what Lycanroc is here for, honestly. Just having a priority attack to keep Raichu from getting out of hand. That would make a lot of sense. On the Oshawott side... Yeah, it looks like Skarmory is the Mega of choice here. Unless they have Mega Gallade, but I don't think they do. Or Mega Garchomp, but I don't think they do. But I don't really remember. But Skarmory could be very threatening into Floette, so that makes a lot of sense to deal with the Floette game plan. And also Skarmory, Mega Skarmory can ignore redirection from Mousehold, right? With Stalwart, so it can guarantee its Steel attack into Floette. It does have a hard time with Incineroar. Not sure how strong it is into Melodic. And again, it could be vulnerable to an Accelerock once it's traded off some of its defense stat from Mega Evolving. So I do think the Oguris have a lot of answers, but Mega Skarmory is the best Floette answer on the other side if they can position it right. And I guess they have Raichu to help them position it right with that Fake Out support. The Qwilfish is interesting. Qwilfish could intimidate physical threats like Dusk Form Lycanroc and Population Bomb Mousehold, but has to be careful not to boost the Melodic on the other side with its competitive ability. Garchomp makes sense because it can click Earthquake next to Skarmory, and there's no ground resist on the other side, except Ditto transformed into Skarmory. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see. We get Melodic leading with Mousehold, so he's going for the Melodic stuff first against Qwilfish and Raichu, so the Melodic will get boosted immediately by the Qwilfish's Intimidate. Qwilfish leading aggressively here, I guess trying to catch... Oh, Qwilfish is also an offensive threat to Floette, because it's a poison type. So I guess trying to aggressively lead into Floette, but instead they play into the Ogre's hands and lead too aggressively into Melodic. No Fake Out from the Raichu, so we see Mousehold just go for Population Bomb immediately. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6, 7 hits, and Raichu is gone. I figured it was more important to do the count than to point out that Mousehold got paralyzed, but it did get hit by Static on the very first hit. That's another advantage of Raichu, getting the Static Para on Mousehold, but it did trade its own life for that here. Qwilfish, though, going straight for a Poison Jab into Melodic and poisoning it, so that might help keep the +2 Melodic kind of reined in here. Let's see, we see Life Orb on the Qwilfish, so it really is here to be an offensive threat to Floette, I guess. Melodic just going straight for the coil, but what's it going to do now that it's poisoned? I mean, it probably has Recover, right? We see Gallade come in. I mean, Gallade could use Sacred Sword and ignore the coil defense boost. First, Mousehold redirects a Liquidation from Qwilfish, takes a lot of damage. And then, sure enough, Gallade did go for Sacred Sword. My guess is into Melodic. It'll take out the Mousehold, so it can try to target Melodic next. Melodic does show Recover. Of course, the poison damage is going to keep ticking on it. Incineroar comes in now. It intimidates these two. That'll make the Sacred Sword not quite as threatening. Qwilfish switches out Skarmory, but Gallade is just protecting here. The Fake Out goes into the Gallade slot, and we see Skarmory switching on a Scald, immediately knocked down to its Sturdy and Burn, so it'll be knocked out here. We will not see what shiny Mega Skarmory looks like in this game. Instead, Qwilfish has to come back in. Gallade now can't switch out, so there's no way for it to get rid of the Intimidate drop. But Qwilfish also boosts Melodic again, which I think is probably what the coach is reacting to here in the chat. But that Life Orb Qwilfish hitting things pretty hard. Its Liquidation takes out the Incineroar. It's just a question of whether they can break Melodic. -1 Sacred Sword does pretty good damage, actually, but a Scald knocks out the Qwilfish. That is +4 Scald. Qwilfish resists, but you wouldn't know from the damage. Melodic, though, in range of the next Sacred Sword, but now, finally, they show the Mega Floette, and, well, Gallade is a Focus Sash, so it'll take a Moonblast. It gets the chance to knock out Melodic, but it has no way to beat Floette now. And so the Oguris take a pretty quick Game 1 here. Thanks in significant part to the opponent just boosting their Melodic turn 1, but, yeah, saving the Floette until the end game. The Skarmory switching in on a Scald also did a lot for them, because saving the Floette until the end game when the two very serious Floette answers on the other side were gone meant that the Oguris could clean this one up pretty quickly. Let's see now what happens in Game 2. Melodic leads with Mousehold, again, against Raichu and Gallade this time. Mousehold will just protect this time instead of going straight for Population Bomb. Raichu does go for Fake Out this time. Last game, Raichu didn't go for Fake Out and got knocked out turn 1. This time it does, but the Mousehold protects. We see Leaf Blade from the Gallade. It was going for Sacred Sword last game, I assume, to ignore the defense boost on Melodic. But now that Melodic doesn't have a defense boost, Gallade can go for its biggest damage, and it does a lot of damage. It doesn't KO, but Melodic not boosting here. I guess it's not that useful against Gallade anyway. Just goes for a Scald. Does a little bit more than half to Raichu. Skarmory switches in here. This is interesting. I mean, Melodic is not boosted. I don't know if it knocks Skarmory down to Sturdy immediately with a Scald here. Gallade is threatening a KO on Melodic, but if Mousehold goes for Follow Me or Population Bomb, either way, that attack is probably not going into Melodic, and Melodic has a free Scald, but it will do less than last time. Melodic actually switches out. Never mind. We get the Incineroar intimidating things, and then Population Bomb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits again. Gallade is gone. Raichu's back. And Garchomp. This time, Raichu does get to fake out the Mousehold. It crits and does 25%, which is pretty good. But the Garchomp just switched in, so there's no follow-up this turn. Incineroar will get to Flare Blitz, the Skarmory slot. It hits Garchomp. That's not bad damage, though, for Flare Blitz into Garchomp. But Incineroar takes Recoil and Rough Skin. Raichu switches out to Skarmory now. Is Skarmory switching in on a Population Bomb? We see Incineroar switch out to Melodic. No Population Bomb. Mousehold just protecting here. It's too bad they didn't find a way to switch the Garchomp in on a Population Bomb, although maybe that's a trade you can't afford to make at this point if you're the Oshawotts anyway. But of course the Rough Skin into Mousehold would get rid of that threat. But I guess they're counting on Skarmory to beat the threat. The good thing for the Oshawotts is Melodic switches in on the Stomping Tantrum and is knocked out. So Melodic is a lot less threatening in this game than it was in Game 1. It's gone now. But Incineroar's back, gets to intimidate these again. We see White Herb on the Garchomp actually, so it does get rid of the Intimidate drop. Skarmory still has the drop, but it's still able to switch out to Raichu if that's what they want to do here. Instead, Skarmory will Mega Evolve. That's pretty cool, shiny. It'll protect, and Garchomp will protect. They avoid the fake out, but there's no fake out. It's actually after you, Mousehold, and Flare Blitz Incineroar. So Mousehold, presumably trained to outspeed Mega Skarmory, making sure Incineroar gets to throw off a Flare Blitz before Mega Skarmory gets to move. That's a great tech to deal with one of the strongest answers to Mega Floette. I love that. Unfortunately, it went into a Protect this turn, so they showed it here for nothing, but how's the opponent going to stop it now? And Mousehold, I guess not caring about the Rough Skin, just goes straight for a Population, or maybe anticipating a switch, but why would they switch? So I guess not caring about the Rough Skin. Go straight for a Population Bomb into Garchomp here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6, 7 hits once again. Mousehold just directly trading itself for Garchomp. Love when the screen gets filled up with text like that. Skarmory gets to throw a single target Rock Slide into Incineroar, but it doesn't do enough. Incineroar knocks it out with a Flare Blitz. And now Floette is back once again, saved for the end game. Poor Raichu about to get obliterated in the chat. Raichu goes straight for a Volt Tackle, and then it drops to a Moonblast. And the Ontario Oguris, the After You tech didn't really accomplish anything, but it was super cool to see. And the Ontario Oguris making solid use of Mousehold and Incineroar, as well as the Melodic that their opponent boosted for them for free. Able in both games to save Floette for the end game and clean up with it. Floette, obviously the biggest threat on their team with a target on its back. Pokemon like Mega Skarmory and Quillfish showing up to deal with it. But if you simply beat its counters with your other Pokemon, what is there to stop it? In this case, there was nothing. Next, we have Pendragon United taking on the Poblano Ho-Ho Peppers. Pendragon United with... looks like a Trick Room mode, right? Farigiraf, Mawile, Espurr. They have Serena able to stop Grimmsnarl from messing with them with priority moves, and also able to stop Metagross Bullet Punch, and also able to stop Scrafty Fake Out. The Serena brings a lot to the table, actually, just with Queenly Majesty here. Politoed can weaken Armarouge's fire attacks. Hit reasonably hard in rain. I mean, they brought Firewater Grass, they brought Trick Room Setter, they brought one of the strongest Trick Room attackers, and then I think it's Mega Dragonite, right? Actually, now that I think about it, they can also go slightly faster mode with Mega Dragonite and Rain if they want. And Hurricane is pretty strong into the opposing team. The Peppers do have Metagross to resist it, but the Metagross is threatened by neutral water attacks, and also by Espurr. But yeah, I focused in on the Mega Mawile right away, but there could be some solid Mega Dragonite game plans here as well. And that could clear out Pokemon like Scrafty and Sinistra relatively quickly with the Hurricane. On the Pepper side, what do they have for these modes? I mean, Armarouge is pretty strong into Mega Mawile. Sinistra can redirect some attacks and create openings for Pokemon like Armarouge, Scrafty, and Metagross to break through, and Primarina. So I don't know if Mawile Trick Room is even necessarily the best thing into this team. It also could be Screen's Grimmsnarl. We don't know if it is, but with that and Sinistra giving recovery, that's a good way to slow down a game plan that focuses on hitting hard very quickly with Mega Mawile. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more of a focus on the Mega Dragonite. But then Dragonite doesn't match up super well into Metagross, and it has a bunch of supporting pieces around it to clean up Dragonite's teammates. So let's see what they each come up with here. Grimmsnarl leads with Scrafty. Is it Mega Scrafty, by the way? I think it probably is. Against Farigiraf and Politoed, so the rain will go up right away. Nobody's likely to care about this Intimidate. Farigiraf actually switches out immediately. Makes sense against 2 Dark types, especially if the Scrafty does Mega Evolve. Sarina comes in. Another Intimidate. Sarina is going to be bothered a bit by that. We see Grimmsnarl set Light Screen. So that'll weaken the rain-boosted Muddy Water, which hits both targets and gets the accuracy drop on Grimmsnarl. Scrafty goes straight for Knockoff, removing a Wide Lens from Sarina. So if Sarina wanted to... What does Sarina want to do with a Wide Lens? Triple Axle into Sinistra? That makes a lot of sense, but it is a little bit less safe now with that item removed. Reflect now from Grimmsnarl. We see Sarina throw a Play Rough into Scrafty. Sure, it's -1. Sure, there's a Reflect up, but Scrafty has a double weakness to that. I say that, it actually still takes less than half, but that's still some damage. Not quite enough, though, for the Muddy Water to knock it out through the light screen. Scrafty gets to land a definitely not necessary crit on Sarina and knock it out with a Brick Break. And then Farigiraf is back. So not only do the Peppers have their own screens, but they're showing with that Brick Break that they're not letting the opponent have screens. Farigiraf is back, but Sinistra switches in now for Grimmsnarl, so Scrafty will get some recovery from that. That might meaningfully buy it some more time behind these screens. We see a Politoed Ice Beam fail to knock it out. We see a Knockoff not quite one-shot the Farigiraf, but knock it very low and remove its leftovers. However, Farigiraf does get a Trick Room up here. Scrafty a little bit vulnerable, goes for Detect, but it's Shadow Ball into Sinistra. The Sinistra just throws off a Macha-Gotcha, but it's Sap Sipper Farigiraf, no Armor Tail. You know, I didn't even think about that. I said that they have Sarina for priority blocking. Didn't cross my mind that Farigiraf already blocks priority most of the time. But as it turns out, Farigiraf does not block priority this time. It gets an attack boost, and probably more importantly takes no damage. I don't think it's running physical attacks, but it takes no damage from the Macha-Gotcha. But Sinistra will still get some recovery from Politoed off of that. Take the Muddy Water pretty well. Again, the screen's very helpful to the Peppers to get through these Trick Room turns. Scrafty switches out to Primarina. Farigiraf showing Calm Mind now, so boosting its attack and special attack. As Muddy Water still just not doing very much to these 2 water resists, and Sinistra switches off the Trick Room. Sinistra takes a third from Ice Beam, but the Macha-Gotcha still doing nothing to Farigiraf, but still damaging Politoed and getting some recovery. And with the Trick Room gone, Primarina is free to click Hyper Voice, which we see is boosted by the Life Orb. Knocking out Farigiraf, chipping Politoed some more. Mawile comes in, but the Trick Room is gone. Sinistra's free to fish for a burn with Macha-Gotcha. Doesn't get it so far. Politoed does protect and avoid an Energy Ball, as well as the Macha-Gotcha. Mawile crits Sinistra with a Crunch, so that's one way to get through the screens. Sinistra faints. Grimmsnarl comes back in. The screens are fading soon. Grimmsnarl might get a chance to bring them back, but I'm not that confident that it takes a Play Rough or Iron Head from Mawile all that well, even with screens. And we actually see Helping Hand on the Politoed. Grimmsnarl will just go straight for Parting Shot into Mawile, so that'll weaken it some. And then Scrafty intimidates it, so it goes straight to -1 attack. Politoed is knocked out, but Mawile gets the Helping Hand this one turn. What does it do with it? Play Rough into Primarina. A lot of damage. Not quite a KO. Mawile is so strong. That did so much damage considering -2 attack and a Reflect, but with all those modifiers, not quite enough to KO despite the Helping Hand. Scrafty will knock Mawile down a bit with the Brick Break, and Primarina gets the KO with Hyper Voice. And so sure enough, the Peppers show that they had just the tools they needed to shut down a Trick Room mode from Pendragon United. The screens, Grimmsnarl, the Sinistra putting out some pressure with Macha-Gotcha, even though the Farigiraf was immune. and also keeping the Scrafty just healthy enough to stick around a little bit longer. All that shows this team is going to be pretty hard to break through. I would not be surprised to see a Dragonite game plan in Game 2, but let's find out. Grimmsnarl leading with Scrafty against Tsareena and Mawile. Pendragon United apparently still just going for it with Mega Mawile. Thanks to the Hypercutter, it does avoid 2 Intimidates. As Scrafty Mega evolves, it takes another shot at it, but Mawile still immune to that stat drop. Tsareena will protect, Scrafty will protect, Mawile will protect, Grimmsnarl will set Reflect. Okay. Now Mawile Mega evolves, so it is vulnerable to the Intimidate for the rest of the battle. We see Trop Kick into Scrafty. My guess is we're also about to see Play Rough into Scrafty to try to knock Scrafty out so that the Intimidate isn't an issue anymore. First, Scrafty takes the attack drop, knocks off the wide lens again, and sure enough, Play Rough knocks Scrafty out through the Reflect. There's only so much you can do to mitigate damage from Mega Mawile. But this time we see Armarouge coming in for the Peppers. That's interesting, bringing Armarouge after they already shut down the Mawile without it in Game 1. It's an interesting adjustment. I wonder what went into it. Feels like they were very confident that Armarouge that the opponent would still bring something that Armarouge deals with well. We see Tsareena switching out now to Espurr, Grimmsnarl switching out to Sinistcha, Mawile just protecting and avoiding an Armor Cannon. Still no Trick Room in this game, by the way. Mawile switches out to Tsareena now. Are they trying to sack Tsareena to an Armor Cannon to get Farigiraf in? We see Protect from Sinistcha. We see Armarouge click Psychic into Espurr and knock it down to a Focus Sash. Espurr goes straight for a Heat Wave, but Sinistcha protects and Armarouge gets its Fire-type damage boosted with Flash Fire, so Espurr accomplishes nothing here. Tsareena protecting now, so much for my guess that they were trying to sack it, but also that Arbor Cannon is going to hit so hard with the Flash Fire boost. Espurr does get a Heat Wave into Sinistcha now. It does about 2/3 and gets a burn, but Sinistcha gets the KO back with Macha Gotcha. Gets like no meaningful recovery because Espurr was at 1 HP, but now Farigiraf does hit the field. We see Rage Powder. We see Armor Cannon knocking out Tsareena. The Armarouge apparently not bothered by Farigiraf being here, but there's no Trick Room. Farigiraf just goes straight for Calm Mind. Probably looking for something it can do to stand up to this Armarouge. At least it's not afraid of Sinistcha, because we know it's immune to the Macha Gotcha and even any possible Shadow Ball. Mawile hits the field, though, and there's still no Trick Room. Maybe Farigiraf goes for it here. Armarouge switches out to Grimmsnarl. We see Protect again from Sinistcha, Protect from Mawile. It's just another Calm Mind from Farigiraf. But Mawile's not really threatened by anything in this position, right? Well, we see Grimmsnarl go for Parting Shot. Pretty safe when they know that Farigiraf doesn't have Armor Tail. So Mawile's kind of threatened by that, but yeah, there's still no urgency, I guess, to get Trick Room up. The Parting Shot actually goes into Farigiraf, so Mawile is free to do a lot of damage here. Armarouge comes back in. Sinistcha goes for Macha Gotcha. Will it burn Mawile? It does. Unfortunate for Pendragon United there. But they went for Play Rough into the Grimmsnarl slot anyway, so it would never have done very much to Armarouge, but it does even less with the burn. And Pendragon United seem like they're all in on Farigiraf to win this game. And honestly, it could happen. That Armor Cannon, now not Flash Fire boosted, only does 1/3. The Trick Room does now finally go up. And Sinistcha's hard countered by Farigiraf. Armarouge switches out to Grimmsnarl, which works out nicely for them as Mawile goes for Crunch, and Grimmsnarl takes like nothing from that. Farigiraf decides this is the moment to knock out Sinistcha with a Shadow Ball. I guess it wants to keep its Trick Room from being reversed. Feels like otherwise Sinistcha is not a priority to remove here, so I guess that must be what that's about. Farigiraf is hoping to sweep under Trick Room now. They still have to deal with Grimmsnarl. Mawile is still pretty threatening into it despite the burn, though. Armarouge will protect here. Grimmsnarl will put the light screen back up and get knocked out by Play Rough. That is good damage considering the burn. And Pendragon United are still in this one. They have a +2 Shadow Ball threatening this Armarouge, and actually the Crunch does a fair bit too as well without a Reflect Up. Armarouge shows the Citrus Berry, but it is knocked out by the Shadow Ball. And if I sounded a little bit skeptical of the Farigiraf setup endgame, that's because I kind of was. I don't think of it as a very strong offensive Pokemon most of the time, but hard countering Sinistcha pays off. Along with just not being especially threatened. Well, I guess what they did is they got rid of the Scrafty quickly, and then there was nothing to especially threaten Farigiraf. Once it had boosted its special defense, it could reasonably take an Armor Cannon. The Flash Fire boosted Armarouge was pretty scary, but they got through it, and Farigiraf does close this one out, along with Mawile still doing a ton of damage even with a burn. So we go to Game 3. And we see Metagross leading with Grimmsnarl against Mawile and Politoed once again. Metagross will Mega Evolve here. Mawile protects, once again, as in Politoed is back after being absent in Game 2. Light Screen up, Muddy Water gets the accuracy drop on Metagross. Mawile will Mega Evolve here. And Sucker Punch Metagross as the Reflect goes up. So Metagross takes the Sucker Punch, lands a big Iron Head into Mawile for a bunch of damage, but then it drops to Muddy Water, which also crits Grimmsnarl. But now Sinistcha's here. Politoed, kind of afraid of Sinistcha, switching out to Farigiraf. We see a Parting Shot into Mawile. Grimmsnarl's out of here. Primarina is on the field in the opponent's Rain. Will Mawile get burned by Machigacha once again? Nope, not this time, but the Crunch doesn't do a ton to Sinistcha through the Reflect, and at -1. Sinistcha switching out to Grimmsnarl now. Mawile switching out to Politoed. Hyper Voice does a lot of damage to Farigiraf. I guess Primarina is how they're trying to deny the Farigiraf setup this time. Also taking advantage of the opponent's Rain, of course. That is Rain boosted Hyper Voice. Does over 80%. Farigiraf going for the Combine, but this time it might be too little too late. You see Muddy Water, miss Grimmsnarl, hit Primarina. Does it get the accuracy drop? It doesn't, and so Primarina able to just knock out Farigiraf with the Hyper Voice. Spirit Break almost knocks out the Politoed, not quite. Does get special attack drop. The rain is over. Serena is here. Trop Kick crits the Primarina through the Reflect and knocks it out. We see Ice Beam do like nothing to Grimmsnarl. Serena doesn't take too terribly much damage from a Spirit Break. Can Serena get the back end of this game? Sinistcha is on the field. Serena still has the Wide Lens. I'm thinking you run Wide Lens because you want to hit your Triple Axle. This is Serena's chance to make use of that item with a Helping Hand from Politoed. Triple Axle into Sinistcha. 1, 2, 3 hits, and it doesn't KO, even with the Helping Hand. Yes, it's into Reflect, but even with the Helping Hand, the Sinistcha takes all 3 hits from Triple Axle, knocks out Politoed with the Machigacha, does not burn Serena, but there's a bit of chip, and then Grimmsnarl gets hit with Spirit Break. Mawile is back. I mean, Mawile is a threat. Mawile is certainly a threat to Grimmsnarl and Sinistcha. I'm not sure they can beat Mawile. So, as exciting as it was to see... Yeah, Grimmsnarl drops to a Play Rough. As exciting as it was to see Sinistcha take the Triple Axle, I don't think it's mattering to the final outcome in this one. Mawile calling the Machigacha. Takes out Sinistcha with a Sucker Punch. And Pendragon United had me on the edge of my seat in this set, especially after the way they lost Game 1, but they found just the tools they needed in each of the other 2 games. Setting up for the Combine Farigiraf endgame in Game 2, and then losing the Farigiraf earlier in Game 3, but setting up for the Mawile to close this one out. Really good stuff. I was surprised to not ever see the Dragonite. I thought a Dragonite-centered game plan was pretty likely, but I guess they didn't need it. Also, Mega Scrafty not showing up to Game 3. Well, did it make a difference? The thing is, it can intimidate Mega Mawile, but it can't intimidate regular Mawile, and it's so vulnerable to that Fairy-type damage. It got wiped out by Mawile in Game 2, so I can understand why Scrafty wasn't here, but yeah, Mawile just was able to close this one out pretty comfortably. I guess when Metagross goes down and Armarouge isn't here this time, there's not a ton to be done about that. They relied on the Primarina to keep the pressure on the opponent, and that seemed to be working for a while, but Serena crit it, right, with Trop Kick? Yeah, well, maybe that was what made the difference in this game. I'm not sure. Next, the Grampas and who is this? What is a stab move anyway, right? That's who this team is? Okay. Yeah, what is a stab move is the Megastaraptor team. I'm familiar with this team. They have their 2 fast flying types, able to set Tailwind for the Hisuian Typhlosion. They have Bayonet. I did not remember that was on their roster. It's surely Mega Bayonet. I don't know why they would have the regular one. So they're not committed to Mega Evolving a Staraptor. They can still set Trick Room with Trevenant if they want to for some reason. And they have support from Meowstic. Actually, I think it's Mega Meowstic, right? We saw them accidentally Mega Evolve it last week. So potentially 3 Megas here for what is Stab. Unless I'm misremembering and they do actually have Mega Bayonet, or regular Bayonet. Tailwind, Hisuian Typhlosion is always the most notable thing, but it looks like hard Trick Room on the Grampas side, so you don't actually have to set Tailwind. You can just click Eruption. And that's going to do a lot of damage to a lot of things, but it's vulnerable to Kingambit Fake Out. Kingambit Sucker Punch is vulnerable to Kingambit Sucker Punch unless you cover for that with Meowstic Fake Out. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. And also, it doesn't stop Slowbro from setting Trick Room, though Typhlosion Shadow Ball can threaten Slowbro and Cofagrigus. Sableye can, of course, disrupt Typhlosion in turn. It can't fake out Typhlosion, but it can use like Quash or Light Screen or Rain Dance. So Typhlosion can threaten a lot of damage immediately, but after that it gets tricky, I think, for what is a stab move. As their ghost types are strong here. Like, Bayonet is strong here as well, but very, very vulnerable to Kingambit. They could taunt the Trick Room setters with like Aerodactyl. They can imprison Trick Room with Meowstic for as long as it can stay on the field. The Grampas are running what looks like a hard Trick Room game plan, so they probably pretty much live or die by their Trick Room, but they have good Trick Room setters. They have Kingambit to ward off threats to their Trick Room setters. And they have Sableye, probably with some kind of disruptive support set. So we'll just have to see what is the stab move has for that. Cofagrigus leads with Sableye against Staraptor and Meowstic. Staraptor Mega Evolves immediately. Meowstic does imprison the Trick Room. Sableye goes for Reflect, takes a Brave Bird from Staraptor. Cofagrigus does go for the Trick Room. So Meowstic is using Imprison to shut down the Trick Room for now. Question is, how long can it sit on the field and keep doing that, especially as it is not able to Mega Evolve here because Staraptor already did. Now we see the side Charm from Meowstic, but oh my god. That is a hilarious tech. Side Charm to get Staraptor to +2 attack, but Sableye just goes for Swagger. Has the opposite interaction with Contrary, gets Staraptor straight back to neutral attack. It takes away, it puts 2 attack drops on Staraptor and confuses it. And they clicked that at the same turn as the Charm, clearly seeing the Charm coming. Well, not necessarily. It's probably good either way, but that is a hilarious counter to that tech. Unfortunately for them, Staraptor breaks through confusion and knocks out Sableye. But what's Cofagrigus doing now? Going for Haze. Okay, I don't get that one. If you clicked Swagger into Staraptor, then best case scenario, you've got it to -2, and you probably want to keep that. Worst case is this, neutral. Haze does nothing. So I don't really get that Haze, but Ampharos is here now. There's no Trick Room up. Ampharos will Mega Evolve. It is obviously an offensive threat to Staraptor, but with the Swagger off the board, Staraptor does now get its attack boost. Close Combat does 2/3 to Ampharos and boosts its defenses. Does it take the Thunderbolt? It does not. It's gone all the same. Cofagrigus still unable to click Trick Room, just Shadow Balls Meowstic for 60%. But now, Typhlosion is here. Typhlosion shows Frisk. We see the Mental Herb on Cofagrigus, confirming that it had an answer to something like an Aerodactyl Taunt. Typhlosion can threaten big damage right now. Let's see what it goes for. Ampharos switches out to Kingambit. That's interesting. Supreme Overlord Kingambit, but if it's Eruption, they probably don't want to bring that in on that. But maybe they're reading that it's not Eruption, because Eruption... I mean, you probably just click Eruption as the Typhlosion, right? But you could click Shadow Ball into Cofagrigus. Try to do maximum damage to that Pokemon before your Meowstic goes down. Or Shadow Ball into Ampharos to get rid of the offensive threat. I guess there are cases for your Shadow Balls, but I don't know. That feels like a risky Kingambit switch in. Meowstic goes for Thunder Wave, paralyzes Cofagrigus, and is Shadow Ball into the Ampharos slot. Okay, I guess I don't know what I'm talking about. There's something I haven't thought all the way through. I guess they're just not that afraid of Cofagrigus offensively, so it makes sense to go for the KO and Ampharos there. Yeah, alright, that's reasonable. And Kingambit does get in safely because of it. Typhlosion protects. They go for Thunder Wave into Kingambit. I guess forgetting that Dark types are immune to Prankster. Kingambit not paralyzed, but the Sucker Punch, regardless of its target, hits nothing here. But Cofagrigus gets a completely free Shadow Ball, but not into Meowstic. Instead, it's into the protecting Typhlosion, so it does nothing. However, Kingambit gets the Sucker Punch Typhlosion the next turn, as Cofagrigus knocks out Meowstic with Shadow Ball. Bayonet is here. Bayonet does 20%, a whopping 20% to Cofagrigus with Shadow Sneak. Gets its ability taken away, not that it matters here, and drops to a Kowtow Cleave. So What is a Stab move was putting on some interesting offensive pressure in Game 1, but then kind of just fell apart against the Kingambit, and also just never really did any significant damage to Cofagrigus. So even without ever getting their Trick Room up, the Grampas were able to just tank their way through this one. We'll see if What is a Stab move can get more effective offensive pressure in Game 2. Cofagrigus leading again with Sableye, so same lead as before, this time against Typhlosion and Meowstic. We see Light Clay on the Sableye. I think we got that confirmed last game, but honestly I wasn't really paying attention to the Reflect that it set up. We see the immediate imprison from Meowstic again. Sableye setting light screen. Koffagrig is still knocked out by a Shadow Ball crit. So there we go. Typhlosion putting out that offensive pressure I talked about after all. Kingambit is here now. Supreme Overlord, 1 boost. Staraptor comes in. I was about to say something really silly. I was about to say Staraptor comes in. That's an interesting choice. You intimidate the Kingambit and boost it with Defiant. But of course, we've already seen it's not Defiant Kingambit. It's Supreme Overlord. I'm just so used to seeing Defiant in VGC, I guess, that I started to think of it as an inherent property of the Pokemon that Kingambit gets boosted when it's intimidated. But nope, not this one. Takes the attack drop. Typhlosion protects. We see Taunt into Staraptor. I think Staraptor's probably fine with that. Sucker Punch does nothing. Typhlosion switches out to Meowstic. Staraptor Mega Evolves, putting a lot of pressure on Kingambit. Now Kingambit protects if Sableye sets a Reflect. I don't know how much that's going to help Kingambit against Staraptor. And Meowstic is in position now to click the side Charm into Staraptor. However, the Grampas switch in their Ampharos. So they brought the same 4 Pokemon as last time. And Ampharos, we know, is a big offensive threat to Staraptor. Staraptor will get a side Charm though, before Meowstic is taunted. But the close combat, the close combat does so much damage to Ampharos. Meowstic is taunted. It can't click another Charm here, but Ampharos is going to be in range of another close combat regardless. However, Sableye can still swagger Staraptor, and the attack drop won't really help here, but Staraptor could hurt itself in confusion. Let's see if that's what they go for. Oh, it gets paralyzed by static too. Huh. Meowstic switches out to Aerodactyl. Staraptor just protects. Okay, so they might not get a chance for the swagger to pay off anyway. They do go for it, but it hits the protect. Ampharos Mega Evolves. Swagger into Staraptor takes away the boost and confuses it. It is also coincidentally paralyzed. Ampharos takes a Rock Slide at 1%, continuing the PDL pattern of holding on at very, 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 very low HP. Will it get a chance to attack Staraptor here? Will Staraptor hurt itself in confusion? It does. And it also gets crit by Thunderbolt. Absolutely incredible. I don't know if that mattered at +1 special defense, but it seems reasonable to me that it might have. Ampharos takes the Rock Slide at 1%, doesn't flinch. Staraptor hurts itself in confusion, and Ampharos knocks it out with a crit. That's Pokemon. Alright, well, Typhlosion's back. There's still a lot of offensive pressure on this Ampharos. They swagger the Typhlosion. That's fun. It's not going to make use of the attack boost, but the attack boost will cause it to do more confusion damage to itself, potentially. However, they do lose Ampharos here to Rock Slide. However, Typhlosion does hurt itself in its confusion, and now Kingambit is here. 2 fallen allies. I don't know how Aerodactyl can really threaten it. I feel like Typhlosion is the only threat to Kingambit. I think Kingambit probably just turns this game around for them. I think Ampharos did his job just by knocking out the Staraptor. Again, excellent crit. Because Kingambit probably just sweeps from here. But obviously it needed Staraptor removed first. The only threat is Typhlosion, but they can just Sucker Punch that. But it's a Sucker Punch mind game then. Well, they try to taunt the Typhlosion, but it gets a double protect, so... Is that a double? Did it actually protect last turn? Yeah, it gets a double protect, so they don't get to taunt it here. But if they protect on Kingambit, which they do, we've already seen it, then... This next taunt into Typhlosion is pretty free, which is probably why Typhlosion switches out. Kingambit actually doesn't protect. Sableye drops the Rock Slide. Meowstic switches in. The Grampas just call it, I guess. I guess the Typhlosion was under so much pressure, there wasn't a lot it could do but switch out, so... I might have been too scared to commit to that Kowtow Cleave, and maybe I would have been punished for it, but they do just take out the Meowstic with that. But they don't get the taunt on Typhlosion. Typhlosion can keep playing Sucker Punch mind games. We see Expert Belt on Kingambit if we didn't see that already, I don't know. They both just protect this turn. Typhlosion goes for a double, doesn't get it, but Kingambit went for Sucker Punch, so Kingambit doing no damage here. Gradually getting chipped down by the Aerodactyl. Typhlosion. If Typhlosion just clicks Protect every turn, it's going to run out of them soon, so... I don't know if that's the best way to play this mind game, but these mind games are always tough. Kingambit, though, ignores the Typhlosion this turn, I guess confident that it is just spamming that Iron Head. Takes out Aerodactyl. That it's just spamming that Protect. Takes out Aerodactyl with an Iron Head. I don't know if we saw Aerodactyl's item, but definitely not a Focus Sash. And Typhlosion with 1 Protect left actually does go for an attack here. But the Grampas, for the Grampas, that's a free Sucker Punch, because if it doesn't get the KO this turn, it will next turn when Typhlosion is out of Protect. So the game was just over at that point. But this game, I mean, King Gambit swept. It was super cool to see. But I wonder if that Mega Ampharos crit on Staraptor mattered. And also if they flinched Mega Ampharos that turn. Or if Staraptor breaks through Confusion, right? There were a lot of things that had to go wrong for what is a stab move on that same turn for Ampharos to get the KO on Staraptor. And if it doesn't get the KO on Staraptor, then Staraptor can probably sweep instead of King Gambit. So, yeah, Pokemon can be a cruel game sometimes, but the whole game kind of turned right there. And King Gambit had no trouble closing this one out. Next, we have the Dapper Digletts and the Minty Meloettas. The Digletts have their rain stuff. They have their slow, tanky Pokemon that we've seen before, including Mega Slowbro? Nope. Galarian Slowbro. That Slowbro form. The purple one. That can set Trick Room if it wants. And they also brought Weavile. Weavile, I don't know, it makes a lot of sense. It's offensively strong into things like Basculegion, Meganium, and Mr. Rhyme. The Meloetta, looking to counter the opponent's rain mode, I assume, with Basculegion and Meganium, and maybe Mr. Rhyme with Freeze Dry. Also, Meowstic being able to click Manual Weather if it wants, but it looks like they probably want to beat Rain with Rain, or beat Rain in Rain. I don't think they want Sunny Day on this team. The Fire Tauros is a strong answer to everything except the Rain mode, so if they can bring the right combinations of Pokemon, right? Tauros with the right things to overwhelm Pelipper and Swampert, then the Tauros can be very, very strong into Pokemon like Weavile, Aegislash, and Hydrapple. And Excadrill should be a pretty solid answer to Galarian Slowbro, unless the Digletts commit to the Focus Blast this time. So this is the clearest that the Meloetta's counter the opponent's game plan idea has been to me so far, as it looks like they have the Pokemon to do it. It's just a question of whether they pull it off. But yeah, that Tauros looks very, very strong if they can support it properly with things like Basculegion, Meganium, and Mr. Rhyme. And probably Excadrill. So some combination of those. But let's see. Basculegion and Meowstic. Against... We're taking the carbon monoxide leak very seriously in the league, I guess. Against Weavile and Pelipper. Rain up. Wonder if it's Swift Swim Basculegion. That would fit with their approach to things. Weavile protects, but the Fake Out goes into Pelipper. Basculegion is flip turns, but it goes into the Protect. Doesn't get off the field. Meowstic sets Reflect, but now we see Flip Turn Basculegion. I'm going to say probably Swift Swim, moving before that Weavile. Does 98% to Weavile, which is a little bit less than 100%, so Weavile's still here. We see Life Orb on the Basculegion. We see Tauros come in against Pelipper, which is interesting, as Knockoff removes a Mental Herb from Meowstic, so it will not be Light Clay boosted Reflect here. It'll be gone in 5 turns. Tauros not punished for switching in on the Pelipper. Pelipper goes for Tailwind, and now Weavile switching out, very scared of the Tauros. Switches out to Swampert. Tauros goes for Iron Head. I don't really get the Iron Head because Tauros' stabs are already super effective into Weavile, and also Weavile's pretty frail. But Tauros' stabs are already super effective into Weavile, and... I mean, Fire Stab wouldn't do much to Swampert, but, like, Close Combat... I mean, to some extent there's some guesswork in what you click here, right? Because Close Combat hits Swampert hardest, but does nothing to Aegislash. It's double resisted by Slowbro. Flare Blitz is weakened in the rain, and Swampert resists that, but it will do damage to Aegislash and Slowbro. But I don't see any reason that Iron Head is the best thing to click there. And I don't know what the Digletts have that they're covering for with Iron Head. Maybe the Digletts have a strong Fairy type, and I don't remember because it's early in the season, and I mostly just remember what's in front of me. But yeah, it never feels like the right play in this position. But okay, Swampert comes in safely on that before Tauros drops to a Weather Ball. And so Tauros will not be handling Swampert's teammates and Pelipper's teammates in this game. Meganium comes in. Could be afraid of a Hurricane, but actually Pelipper switches out to Weavile. We also see Meowstic switch out to Basculegion. Swampert will Mega Evolve, get its Swift Swim online. Meganium also Mega Evolving, but Swampert just protects and avoids a Solar Beam. Mega Soul, such a cool ability, by the way. Meganium now protecting, threatened by the Weavile and Tailwind. Avoids a Poison Jab from Swampert. Good coverage there. Weavile actually just going for Knockoff into Basculegion, getting rid of its Life Orb. while at the same time knocking it just under 10%. So you might honestly prefer that it keep its life orb, because it would have been knocked out by its own flip turn there if that had happened. But at least it does a bit less damage to Swampert. Basculegion now pivoting out, back to Meowstic. Rain over, Weavile protects, Swampert protects. Right, I went for Poison Jab last turn, so that's not a double. They avoid a Fake Out, and Swampert avoids the Solar Beam again. Just kidding, Weavile avoids the Solar Beam, shows what I know. Meowstic switching out to Basculegion again, as the coach is acknowledging the stressful nature in the chat of this careful positioning that they're doing. Meganium protects, avoids an Ice Spinner. Ice Spinner, huh? I wonder how much damage that does to this Meganium. Meganium's kind of tanky, and Ice Spinner's not crazy strong, but maybe we'll find out. Meganium also avoiding a Poison Jab. Now Meganium switches out to Meowstic. Swampert protects this time. A lot of protecting and repositioning back and forth, but without the rain boosting the Swift Swim that I'm now extremely confident it has, the Meloetta do lose their Basculegion to a knockoff. Weavile took 98% from the first attack that hit it, but has held on and is the Diglett are doing a smart thing here. They set up the rain earlier, but now they're taking advantage of the lack of rain, with Weavile able to outspeed everything and get that KO. And now the Meloetta can't switch around anymore, and it's just Meowstic and Meganium against some faster threats that can probably knock them out pretty easily, honestly. And we see Aegislash, the last Pokemon not previously revealed for the Digletts. And I think we will probably not get to find out what the Ice Spinner does to Meganium in this game. Although, Pelipper switches in on a Solar Beam. It does get the rain back up. So it gives Swampert a Swift Swim again. They're probably fine with losing Pelipper here. Somebody else gets in for free. It's actually Weavile. But also Aegislash, I think, just hard counters these. Well, I mean, it has to watch out for Meganium Weather Ball. So yeah, maybe offensive pressure from Weavile is still good for them here. Another Reflect went up at some point. It was last turn, so Aegislash Shadow Sneak does not amazing damage to Meowstic here, but Weavile doubles into it with Knockoff. The Digletts, I guess, confident that as they lose Weavile to Solar Beam here, they can beat Meganium with Poison Jab, Swampert, and Aegislash. Poison Jab does 80% through the Reflect, and it gets the Poison. We see Weather Ball take out the Aegislash, but I mean, Swampert just has to protect now and it wins, but also doesn't have to protect. It can Poison Jab and win with that. So a lot of careful repositioning back and forth, but yeah, the Digletts took advantage of Weavile being such a fast offensive threat and got the KOs they needed to simplify to a winning endgame. And let's see if things play out differently here in Game 2. Tauros and Basculegion for the Meloetta. Offensive threats on the board immediately against Slowbro and Swampert for the Diglett. So that's a little bit different. We haven't seen the Slowbro before. Swampert Mega Evolves. It's Iron Head into Slowbro. Why? I still can't imagine that Iron Head is ever the right thing to click, right? Because a fire attack, Flare Blitz or Raging Bull, does more to Slowbro. I was going to say it also does more to Pelipper coming in. Actually, maybe it doesn't with the Rain nerf. How does that work? No, but it'd have higher base power than Iron Head and Stab. So unless I'm misremembering how the numbers work, I think it's always stronger even into Pelipper. So I really don't get the Iron Head, but maybe they'll explain it. Flip turn, chip Slowbro a bit as well. We see Meowstic come in on a knockoff from Swampert and lose its Mental Herb. It did 50%, and Slowbro says Trick Room. So I suspect we're not seeing the Pelipper if they brought Mega Slowbro and Trick Room. Hydrapple now just switching in front of this Tauros, but Tauros might be about to get deleted by Slowbro. Let's see. We get the Super Sweet Syrup. That Focus Blast is going to hit if it's coming out, although I don't know why it would be here. Meowstic actually fakes out the Slowbro, so Tauros not about to get deleted. Does it do something to this Hydrapple on the switch in? It's just Iron Head into the Swampert slot. Slowbro's already on the field. Close Combat definitely does more to Pelipper than Iron Head does, right? Well, I mean, I can't just keep saying the same thing over and over. I mean, I can, but it's not good content. Slowbro activating its Quick Claw here, not that it needs it in the Trick Room. Psychic into the Tauros slot does a lot of damage to Basculegion coming in. I don't think I knew that Hydrapple can learn Nasty Plot. I probably should have known that. It's not really very intuitive that this Pokemon would get that move, but Hydrapple does use Nasty Plot. Slowbro takes a Psychic from Meowstic and switches out to Swampert. We see Basculege and Protect trying to get out of this Trick Room. We see +2 Hydrapple, Earth Power taking out the Meowstic. There will be no more screens as the... I think the Reflect does fade there. Was there not a Reflect up? Oh, I guess there wasn't a Reflect. I just saw an optical illusion or something. Well, there won't be one now. Alright, anyway, Tauros is back. It's the last turn of Trick Room. It can protect through it, but it doesn't, and also the Basculegion just protected, right? So, Hydrapple just takes out Basculegion with a Draco Meteor. Meganium is not Mega Evolved, so even if it's in the back, it can't safely switch in on that. That Draco Meteor just wipes out anything except Excadrill. They probably didn't bring Excadrill the way this is played out so far, and also would probably still take a lot from the Draco Meteor, so very safe Draco Meteor for the Digletts, taking out the Basculegion. Swampert going for the Poison Jab into Tauros, I guess covering for a Meganium switch in that doesn't come, but Tauros has not shown that it can do anything very threatening. It does finally click Raging Bull. Does not knock out Hydrapple. We do see the Meganium. And Trick Room is over, and we get Aegislash confirmed, last Pokemon for the Digletts. Raging Bull takes out Hydrapple. Aegislash is pressured by Meganium Weather Ball. The Digletts, or the Meloetta may yet get back into this one, as their opponent doesn't have the Pelipper to make Swampert go fast, so Meganium looks like a threat. Unless Swampert's faster anyway and just Poison Jabs it, but... The other funny thing that could happen here, at least I assume this works. We saw that the Slowbro is a Quick Claw. It probably has Quick Draw. I think Quick Claw just gives positive priority. I think those things just... like, they activate and then your move goes, right? Here's what I'm saying. What if Slowbro activates one of those things and says Trick Room up immediately? I think that probably works, right? It's not like Prankster. Prankster adds 1 to the priority, so Trick Room is still -6 priority with Prankster. It barely makes a difference at all. But I don't think Quick Claw and Quick Draw work like that. I think there is one random way that the Digletts can still get Trick Room up if they want to go for that, and then just beat Meganium with their Aegislash. Quick Draw? King Shield? No Trick Room, just Psychic. Takes out the Tauros. But Aegislash, with the King Shield, survives the Weather Ball. And yeah, this was the safer way to play this, I suppose. I mean, who knows what Tauros would have gone for? Maybe it would have knocked out Slowbro, and then... yeah, the Digletts might have been in trouble. Just gonna check some base speeds quickly. Meganium has higher base speeds than Swampert. The Digletts might have been in trouble. But this was the more solid way to do it. They did manage to take out the Tauros. And now Meganium, I mean, Steel type, Poison coverage. Meganium just can't win this by itself. They get Quick Draw again anyway, and the Shell Sidearm takes out Meganium. So Slowbro kind of showing off at the end there. But I think once the Tauros went down, this one was over anyway. But without Slowbro cheesing through Game 2, the Meloetta might well have forced a Game 3. So another set where one side got a pretty solid win, pretty solid looking win in a game that I think could easily have gone the other way. But the Digletts do close this one out, and that brings us to the last set for this week between the East Coast Espurr and the Minnesota Marshadows. The Espurr is still just not even bringing that Annihilate that was their first round pick. Instead, I don't know, a bunch of blobs. They got Klefki, they got Toxapex, they got Mega Scovillain, they got Mimikyu with Disguise. They can make all of their Pokemon hard to knock out if they want. I don't know what the rest of the plan is. Mamoswine and Rotom are reasonable offensive threats into things like Blastoise, Hydreigon, Metagross, Toxicroak. I don't know what beats the Frostlass, maybe Scovillain. The Marshadows, meanwhile, have a very blue-looking team. Anyway. I don't know, the Marshadows have brought, like, good stuffs? Kind of feels like that's what they do. The Mega Frostlass is interesting. It could have been threatening to... the Mega Frostlass could have been threatening to Annihilate if it had shown up. But have to be a little bit afraid of Mega Scovillain. At least as an offensive threat. Anyway, I don't know what's going on. Blastoise and Oranguru might just be Trick Room stuff again. against Toxapex and Mimikyu. Blastoise Mega Evolves. Mimikyu goes straight for Woodhammer. Fun coverage tech there. Does more than half to Blastoise. Blastoise, though, not showing Water Spout, instead clicking Surf. That move is not weakened by damage on it. Oranguru with Telepathy takes no damage. Toxapex doesn't take much either. Mimikyu has its disguise, but, well, but what? Okay, Blastoise is in range of the next Woodhammer, but Mimikyu is drowsy now after an Oranguru yawn, so maybe it wants to switch out. We see Infestation chipping the Blastoise a little bit more and trapping it on the field. Mimikyu does switch out to Klefki. The Surf still not doing crazy damage. It does 40% to Klefki. That's not bad, but Oranguru now showing Psychic. That'll do a lot of damage to Toxapex. Not quite knock it out yet. The Infestation is here, but its damage seems too slow. Baneful Bunker now from Toxapex. Klefki sets Light Screen. It'll take the Surf better than before, and has a chance to knock out Blastoise with Dazzling Gleam if it wants. It gets yawned. Oh wait, it set Light Screen, so it already moved this turn. Never mind. And now it gets yawned. It's drowsy. Switches out to Scovillain. Toxapex going for Wide Guard here. That would stop the Surf, but somehow the Marshadows knew just the right turn to go for Water Pulse instead. I guess the Toxapex did everything else it wanted to do, so why not cover for Wide Guard? Scovillain takes a lot of damage from Water Pulse. Toxapex drops the Psychic. Scovillain gets a Moody Boost special attack, but the Espurr have taken a lot of damage for not accomplishing a whole lot in return. The Blastoise is only at 3%. It's definitely in range of another Woodhammer. But everything on the Espurr side has been chipped down, and Toxapex is gone. Mimikyu's here now. Blastoise will actually switch out instead of sacking itself. It's Toxicroak coming in here. Scovillain Mega Evolves. Mimikyu just goes ahead and crits Toxicroak with a Shadow Claw for 70%, so this could be the start of how the Espurr get back into this game. We see Giga Drain from Scovillain, not knock out the Oranguru. Oranguru's still just spamming Yawn now that it doesn't have Quick Psychic into Toxapex anymore. Scovillain is drowsy, but it just protects this turn, so it's going to stay on the field and fall asleep, I guess knowing that anything that attacks it... Scovillain is still kind of useful when it's asleep, right? Because anything that attacks it is burned. Toxicroak doesn't want that for the attack drop, and it's kind of at low HP. Oranguru and Blastoise are both at very low HP. They'll drop to burn damage pretty quickly. So Scovillain's still kind of threatening, even asleep. Very funny Mega Pokemon. We see Acid Spray from Toxicroak, though, lowering Mimikyu's special defense. Is Oranguru just going to knock it out with Psychic? First Shadow Claw will take out Toxicroak. Oranguru actually sets Trick Room, but now Blastoise can come in and... Well, Blastoise can be threatening again, even with such low HP, but Mimikyu could take it out with Shadow Sneak, but Mimikyu not showing Shadow Sneak this turn. Maybe doesn't have it. Maybe dropped it for Woodhammer. And maybe the Marshadows anticipated that. We see the Psychic into Scovillain. Oranguru is burned, but also Scovillain takes the special defense drop. Is it going to be a Surf from Blastoise now? Scovillain stays asleep, of course. It is Surf from Blastoise. Mimikyu and Scovillain, even with their special defense lowered, do both survive thanks to the Light Screen. And Blastoise is burned. It'll drop to burn damage here. Actually, it'll drop to Mimikyu Shadow Claw. Oranguru only has one more turn left with burn damage. Now Metagross finally hits the field. Will the Marshadow... Well, Scovillain wakes up, so it'll probably protect. So I was about to ask, will the Marshadows knock out the Scovillain before they get their Metagross burned, but it doesn't look like they'll be able to. They do go for the Psychic, but yeah, Scovillain waking up there deals with that, but Mimikyu is knocked out by an Iron Head. Mimikyu will not get a chance to click Shadow Claw or anything into Metagross. So even if the Metagross gets burned, it's not like Klefki can beat it, right? But Trick Room's still up. How slow is this Metagross? Okay, I stand corrected. Klefki shows foul play. It does have a way to beat Metagross. It actually does a lot of damage with that. Earthquake Metagross, by the way, would go crazy here. Probably just win the game on the spot, but we don't see Earthquake. And hey, Earthquake Metagross would make decent sense next to Telepathy Oranguru and Levitate Hydreigon. But we don't see Earthquake. Instead, it's Psychic Fangs to take out Scovillain. Metagross gets burned. Just kidding. It activates its Lumberry and cures the burn. And now if Metagross has Protect, it can just get out of Trick Room and knock out Klefki before it gets hit by another foul play, right? Or Klefki might set Reflect if they have it. I don't know if that would help it take a hit. But yeah, that is what happens. Metagross protects through the last turn of Trick Room, knocks Klefki out with an Iron Head. So that was a fun back and forth game with a lot of Pokemon being gradually chipped down and then suddenly dominoes falling. The Surf Blastoise was kind of fun. I was going to say it didn't accomplish a whole lot, but that's not actually true. It did a lot of damage that the Marshadows were able to capitalize on later. And the Oranguru just spamming Yawn was, I don't know, maybe almost as diabolical as what the Calgary Camerupt were cooking up with their Overquill this week. Maybe that's going too far. It was pretty diabolical, though. I don't know what's going to happen in Game 2. Let's just jump in. Frostlass and Toxicroak against Scovillain and Klefki. Okay, so Frostlass doesn't look super well positioned here, but it will Mega Evolve. Get the Snow. Scovillain Mega Evolves. Klefki sets Light Screen. Frostlass does just go for a Blizzard. The Marshadows may be going for the same kind of game plan of just getting their spread damage out early and then getting the KOs later. So not afraid of things like Spicy Spray. Not that Frostlass cares the most about being burned, or Klefki resisting, or Light Screen. Just getting the spread damage anyway. You can fish for freezes this way too. Frostlass gets burned. We see Sludge Bomb into Scovillain. Toxicroak gets burned as well, but apparently this is special Toxicroak. We've seen Acid Spray and Sludge Bomb. So not too bothered about the Spicy Spray either. Frostlass does take a Flamethrower from Scovillain, but the burn damage is going to make it a little uncomfortable now. Or Klefki... No, Klefki already moved this turn. I'm not falling for that again. Yeah, Frostlass only gets one more turn. Switches out, saves that one turn for later. Hydreigon comes in. We see Sunny Day from the Klefki, and we see Encore from the Toxicroak locking Klefki into Sunny Day, so that's interesting. Toxicroak now damaged by its own Dry Skin as well as the burn, but Klefki switches out to Toxapex. Toxicroak, Toxapex. We'll see if I get these names mixed up in the next little stretch of this game. Let me know in the comments if I did. Toxicroak lands an Acid Spray into Toxapex, lowering its special defense. Just ahead of a Hydreigon Earth Power, does a lot of damage, but Toxapex, very, very bulky Pokemon, and behind a Light Screen, still takes the hit. Flamethrower now takes out the Toxicroak, which with Dry Skin is functionally weak to fire, and also the Flamethrower is Sun boosted. Metagross comes in now. I was going to say Frostlass can come back in and threaten Toxapex. Well, we know already that the Toxapex has Wide Guard, but Frostlass could come back in, get the Snow back, pressure out the Wide Guard while Hydreigon takes KOs, but that's not what they go for here. They go for Metagross. Of course, Klefki can come back in later and click Sunny Day again, but they go for Metagross. We see Rage Powder. The Earth Power knocks it out. Metagross will avoid getting burned. We already saw that Metagross is a way to get rid of the burn one time anyway, but it'll avoid it here thanks to the sacrifice of all its teammates. That's not a huge sacrifice because all its teammates are special attackers. Metagross, the only physical attacker the Marshadows brought. Frostlass will drop to burn damage very quickly whenever it comes back in, but Hydreigon is not in danger of that. So Hydreigon takes out the Scovillain, and also Metagross can just knock out Toxapex now with Psychic Fangs probably. So bringing in Metagross made perfect sense here, even though I was thinking Frostlass first. Just kidding. Metagross goes straight for Agility. It's not like it's very threatened by Toxapex, so yeah, if it has that move, might as well go for it. It'll get chipped down by Infestation, but it's not like that's doing crazy damage. The Psychic Fangs actually goes into Klefki, maybe anticipating a Baneful Bunker here, or just knowing that Hydreigon can knock out the Toxapex. But yeah, Psychic Fangs into Klefki gets rid of the Light Screen. And yeah, they probably figured they're fine to get damage on Klefki here and just take out the Toxapex with Hydreigon. Nope. Oh, they just double into Klefki. Okay, that makes a lot of sense too, because yeah, Toxapex is probably just too slow at doing anything to win the game from here. So, Psychic Fangs clear the Light Screen, and then Earth Power gets the KO. Maybe I should have called that one. I'm getting tired, though. This is the last of what, 10 sets that I'm... 9 sets, because I recorded my own a while ago. Whatever, I'm tired. Mimikyu's here. Protect on Metagross. Baneful Bunker on Toxapex. We see Snarl from Hydreigon, so that'll break the disguise. It also would have weakened Toxapex's Infestation for what that's worth, but Toxapex bunkered around it. Mimikyu sets Trick Room, though, so the speed advantage goes to the Espurr for now. Infestation will chip down Hydreigon. Shadow Claw will do a lot to Metagross, but Metagross holds on. We see Earth Power into Mimikyu. We see Iron Head knocking out the Mimikyu, and now Toxapex is all alone. And, I mean, there's a lot of residual damage on the other side. It can Baneful Bunker here, and Metagross drops the Infestation. Unless it gets freed this turn. It's not like I've been counting. Okay, it does get freed this turn. But it's still knocked out by another Infestation. Toxapex in Trick Room almost had a chance to close this one out, but in the end the position was not quite good enough. Infestation into Hydreigon would have avoided that Earth Power, but then I think Toxapex probably drops to Psychic Fangs. How healthy with Toxapex? on that last turn. Not especially healthy. The point is, the Marshadows had, despite all that chip damage, the Marshadows had just enough left in the end. They were threatening Psychic Fangs and Earth Power at the same time, and Toxapex could only stop one of them. And so the East Coast Espurr, I mean, they had the Klefki with Weather and Screens. They had a lot of residual damage with Toxapex and Scovillain. They got pretty close in this one. Again, Frostlass comes in, you Baneful Bunker, it drops the burn damage. The Espurr were not too far from pulling this thing off, but they did not manage to pull this thing off, and the Minnesota Marshadows just, like I said, getting their spread damage out early, and then dropping special defense and taking KOs with Pokemon like Hydreigon. Didn't have the easiest time breaking through, but were able to break through in the end, and solid game plan against the Mega Scovillain as well, loading up on special offense like that. That is PDL Week 3. Super fun week. I do not understand what some of these coaches were cooking, but it's been a lot of fun to watch, and we're really seeing some clear strategic directions for some of these teams, and absolute chaos for others. We are now 1/3 of the way through the regular season, so still a lot of surprises ahead. Stick around to find out next, because I sure don't know.